a legend. And she invited the angels and standing around down. That guy's not through. It's been around the block.
Just the Oakville and not a farm kid. Just the Oakville and not a farm
Watch the and they had.
Here's what I gave you, which has all the same information.
Amazing.
All right, yeah. Well, I had Dan make this for me because it's kind of a separate.
Okay, but
down here.
I think you got Rich's. We were at.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You didn't get one of these, though. You got these from. Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for your help.
Oh,
I got it.
I'm gonna try to.
Something different now.
And,
you the other day, guys, and then I.
I'm gonna bring it up.
Hey, Mr. K gets one, she's worried she's not gonna get.
Yeah, no, yeah, I want to see that. One is from Michael. Okay, it's that time. Let's call this meeting in order with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, this is the Starke County Council meeting, Tuesday, February 20th. We are present, not just in quorum, but in totality. I only have one piece of housekeeping business first. Here is the minutes from Monday, January 16th. If anybody would like to discuss those or make any kind of a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
We have a motion from Kay to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Cassie. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? And while I'm passing this down, I'd like to invite Derek Mason to talk to us about Title IV-E.
Hello,
You're welcome.
thank you very much. Spot here, does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
You said this is gonna control this, right?
Yes.
Sit here, hopefully.
Watch out for time though.
Watch out for me, I'm trouble.
Well, hello, my name is Derek Mason. I'm the Executive Director for the Indiana Public Defender Commission. We have been in existence since 1989, and since the 90s, we have been providing 40% reimbursement to counties for their public defense expenses in exchange for agreement to participate or abide by certain public defense standards. And that's not really what I'm here about today, though. It's something relatively new, which is a federal Title IV-E program. You may have heard of Title IV-D, which is like child support. The reason you haven't heard of 4E most likely is because it's always been DCS money. DCS is the administrator of it in the state, and it's always been a huge reimbursement for the Department of Child Services and for the state. But a few years ago, skip this one, come back. The federal government changed, and you have this slides for your own reference in the future. You don't have to follow along. But the federal government changed Title IV-E to allow reimbursement to states and counties for their public defense costs in DCS cases. So we're talking about children in need of services and termination of parental rights cases. So when children are removed from the home or otherwise DCS gets involved in a court proceeding. And the Department of Child Services, when the federal government made this change, said, we don't have these relationships with counties or public defenders at all. And so they partnered with us, and we are the pass-through entity to counties for this federal Title IV money. This is an entitlement grant. It is money that you are entitled to and eligible for without having to comply with any standards whatsoever. It is just literally federal money that is for something you are already doing. Now, it is not going to be life-changing money. It ends up being around 12%. Again, it varies. We have to get the information every quarter from the Department of Child Services to the percentage of cases that are eligible for Title IV across the state, and we apply that to every county. We don't use a county-specific number. And ultimately, it ends up being about 12% of your public defense expenses that are associated with those particular case types. And so just to give you an example, 67 counties are in the green there. They're receiving the 40% reimbursement from us, as well as the 4E. And then we have also added 5 counties that just received the 4E, which is what I was invited here to talk to you about today. So we're slowly expanding that. We just don't have connections in those counties like we do our participating counties. And so we're just slowly spreading the word that this is something that you are eligible for. Essentially, to get into receiving this money, there's an agreement that's required by DCS and the federal government that basically says, you will provide us this information and we will be sending you these funds. It's pretty, there's nothing onerous in it and there's nothing odd in it, really. It's a little long because federal government and state government. And then every quarter, what happens is your county would fill out all of your public defense expenses in our form that we have had approved by DCS. And you also fill out every public defense appointment that has happened in that quarter to however many attorneys. So like if I received 5 Department of Child Services cases and 5 felonies of a certain level, it would say in that quarter I received this number of cases, and we would use that to calculate how much of your total expenses are eligible for reimbursement. So here's an example of the form, first page of our form, and it shows different ways you can break down things. You guys don't have a public defender office, so a lot of these will just be blank. You'll just have largely, if they have deposition expenses, if there was a trial and you had expert witness expenses or you had transcripts, things like that would be listed here. Any sort of expenses reimbursed to your attorney or attorneys that do public defense work would be listed here.
Before you go away from that though,
Yes.
when you said, you were saying you a few times. When you say you, do you mean the clerk's department or who?
So I'll talk about that.
Okay.
You, I mean the county as a whole. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. The you as in Starke County.
If
But I
not, we'll
will
make
talk
the
about it.
auditor's office do it, but go
No,
ahead.
I'll talk about that. It's a great question.
I should have never known to do.
I will happily talk about it. So because the next form, the next page you're going to see is really going to help you kind of determine that. And this is where you will list every single case appointment that happens in each quarter, 1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q, and we reimburse you then back your federal Title IV money every quarter. The reason why this is important is because this particular form obviously is going to require some level of court involvement to be able to track those case appointments.
Does this roll up in DocuWare or something, or
This is literally an Excel spreadsheet.
just a spreadsheet?
Just an
So
Excel
there's nothing
spreadsheet.
automated where they roll it up.
So nothing automated. There is a way to pull these appointments from Odyssey, and we can work with the court reporter
So it
to
does
do
work
that.
fine.
Odyssey can do that, but you'd still have to manually enter that information into this Excel spreadsheet. But it's we literally have had courts use hashtags. As the judge makes an appointment, we've had court reporters do it. We've had them pull it from Odyssey. It's however the county wants to generate that data, as long as it's accurate. That's the key. And so obviously Odyssey is the latest, greatest thing to be able to pull that information together for
I
you.
guess as I'm thinking about this, it's just starting making me wonder if there's an employee involved here that has to be created that
Yep.
the 12% maybe isn't going to pay for
Yep.
the staffing. So
Yeah, so that's
just so you know where I'm going.
yeah,
with
no,
that.
I will actually talk about that as well. But I will say, since 67 counties that do it and now 72 counties that do it, there's no one that's dedicated to this. This is a pretty fast thing. Literally somebody is counting the appointments and telling us, and then somebody else is putting in all the public defense expenses every quarter. We have small counties usually tell us it takes an hour or two every quarter.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to think what small counties, like That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Have you worked with small
Okay.
counties?
Yeah.
Because our problem is we don't have a lot of staffing to start with, but
Yep.
I'm just guessing that and I'm just looking at the attorneys in the room. I know that we do have a few DCS cases,
Mhm.
related cases though, so I don't know if they're offsetting the same way.
You have over 50 cases in the GCS cases every year in this county, and I'm from a small county, smaller than this one.
Okay.
From Blackford County, and we have many smaller counties that receive the 40% reimbursement. Then we have counties that are under 10,000 population that participate in the full reimbursement program. So it's not anything that's overwhelming, but we do recognize that it does take some startup time.
Yeah.
I mean, the hardest part about this is literally just getting the system in place to collect the information. Usually the
The
auditor,
clerk's not here either too, so I don't want to get in trouble by it.
and I'm not asking you to sign anything today either. I'm just explaining the
So
program.
you're
You
saying
guys
we
can
have
decide.
about 50 a year though, so it's not like 50 a day, so,
No, absolutely not.
yeah,
So you have about 50 cases a year, but the problem is those cases do tend to last years.
okay.
They're not a misdemeanor case that can be done in a month or two. We're talking about a case where it has not gone well before termination of criminal rights happens, or even up through termination of criminal rights could easily be 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So you're going to incur, depending how you pay your attorney, you're going to be incurring expenses potentially for that over a course of years for just one case. And then a termination of criminal rights case involving the same people counts as another case, which also raises your reimbursement as well. But we do understand it's not a life-changing amount of money. It's just free money that you're eligible for. And so one of the things that we are doing is, I'm going to come right back to it, is incentive funds. So one of the we are doing is offering $1,000 per quarter for the first 4 quarters, and $500 per quarter every quarter after that. For every court, you guys have 1 county court, so it'd be $4,000 a year to help offset just incentive funds to get this program rolling. And so some people use it as bonus money for an employee that would be collecting this information. Some people actually supplement salary. Some counties just pocket this money and say, this is now your job duty, and it's going to take you 5 hours a quarter or 2 hours a quarter or whatever it ends up being. And you can also divide the tasks. The person that does the expenses does not have to be a court person that report the cases, for example. We have counties that do it that way. The people that report this information to us completely varies by county. Sometimes the auditors do it, sometimes auditor staff, office management. We have court administrative staff, court reporters. Some judges do it themselves. We have magistrates that do it themselves. There's no requirement on us as to who does it. It's really whatever works best for every county.
So let me ask you that before you go on then, as far as like staying in our own lane thing, is this something that our judge would have already heard about, just so we're not kind of, getting into his field, coming from the bottom up, like would he have heard about this too?
I don't know. Here's the problem. I mean, I think I spoke briefly to Rachel. I think there was some confusion. There tends to be a lot of confusion about this because it is very new. This new Title 40 funds, when they hear the commission, they think we have to abide by standards. That's the number one thing that it's whatever you're doing now is eligible for reimbursement because you're already providing public defenders in these cases.
Yeah.
You're already incurring these expenses. You have to incur no new expenses other than the provision of a quarterly form that generates how much money you are going to receive.
So this is
What new
completely
information is
different
collected?
from the 40%.
Right. I guess what I'm wondering too is that since so many other counties are involved, did they opt in recently, or are we just later to the game?
You're just later to the game, but of course we grow every year. So more counties, White County is considering joining right now, the full 40% reimbursement. They have a lot of attorney issues being sucked away to Tippecanoe County. They want to be more competitive. They just raised the rate of pay, et cetera, and they want 40% back on that. So they're investigating that right now. More counties are just evaluating joining all of the time. It just kind of depends.
And I remember when I attended your Zoom summit on this, that you stated that actually there were 1 or 2 counties that had left the program after participating and were now coming back.
Yes. So, for example, Montgomery County just started in the 40 program as well. We're getting their first quarterly one right now. They actually dropped out in 2014 from the 40% program. And they're actually, the judges there are wanting to try to get back into that program. The reason why counties dropped out in the past of the 40% was we prorated reimbursement until 2009. We weren't eligible for the full 40 because we can only give you the money we have. The states adequately funded us since 2009. We haven't prorated for 15 years. But we did lose Henry County and Montgomery County, for example. And Montgomery County, like I say, is now going to be blue this quarter, and they're investigating joining as well. So this is something though that there's no one's ever dropped out of this. This has only been around for a couple of years. And again, there's no, even if a county dropped out of the 40%, they could still get the Title IV-E funds. And we don't have anybody that is, we have no one that is evaluating dropping out that I'm aware of that's ever talked to us about concerns at this.
So who opts in then? The judge or the?
So in
county?
this, it is that we have, the judge would typically sign and the auditor would sign an acknowledgement in this certain circumstance, yes. Because you don't have a county public defender board, unless you have a county public defender board that
Well,
you've set up.
Let me ask you this. You said you come from a small county, you work with small counties. One thing I know a little bit about our counties, we don't have a lot of public defenders is the problem. So how does that affect the mix?
It doesn't affect it at all, whatever you're spending. It affects the mix for the 40% reimbursement.
And we
But
might
not
not have
this.
a lot of public defenders because the pay is not.
Right, but I guess I'm just wondering, would we still qualify though regardless? And because we have not a lot of public defenders, Cassie, do you know, or maybe even Justin knows too, because I don't know how much you do in Starke County with it, but are a lot of the DCS cases that we have done with public defenders here?
Most, I think my impression is that they are. Because I
Well, I
have
guess you
people
would know,
coming.
yeah.
I mean, because of the nature of DCS cases, I don't know how many attorneys do this, but I normally have to increase my retainer and it becomes cost prohibitive. And then, yeah, I feel like probably the majority and you might have.
The appointment rate's about 98%
Okay,
in these cases because they are almost all of low income.
So just thinking about this, if I could ask this then, since this obviously is geared more towards, children, could we like incentivize just those cases only with this money and say like, okay, if you take a DCS case, you know what I'm getting at? Like this income would only be for those types of cases?
So this is reimbursement for what you're already spending. And the county can do whatever it wants with it. If you wanted to use that money to then fund these cases more,
All right.
then you would get more money back. But this is literally just trying to get you money back that you are entitled for, that is for money you're already spending. The 40% reimbursements where we really would be talking about a lot of things you're talking about,
Gotcha, okay.
which is to me a whole next step.
So
Like,
we
this
can
is
test
just
the
free.
waters with the 12% first.
Yeah, of course. And there's really not much in the way of testing other than the
It doesn't
reporting.
sound like there's a lot to lose there. But my question would be, would the council then, would we make a recommendation for the judge that he takes a look at this? I mean,
Right.
like I said, we have to be careful about this, especially when it comes to judicial versus, county government. But obviously, we're in charge of the fiscal part of it, so we're very concerned with how we spend money, how we take in money, how we can take in more money.
Okay, I have one question. No, everybody's afraid to ask it. What's the catch?
I know. The catch is literally that you have to complete these quarterly forms or until the federal government changes their mind that this isn't eligible for reimbursement. But this is a trend they've been working on for a long time. There's really no catch, or if we get dissolved.
But I still.
Yeah, if we get dissolved and, as a state agency or something, then another agency would have to choose to pick up the battle, but.
All right.
And any office could enter, like I have the recorder here, like we could see if she wants to, I'm just kidding.
Well,
But we could start with the judge, theoretically, even his staff.
that's who you would want to start with. That's who you would want to encourage to participate. And typically we would have the judge sign the agreement.
Right.
And then, like I say, the auditor would acknowledge that they understand the requirements of the agreement as well. There is the only other catch that I skipped over. to
I
get to
knew
this,
it.
Is you do have to tell us every year what you spent the money on. There's no requirements of how you spend it. But this is something
reasonable.
that we do to let legislators know, because they gave us some additional money to help reach out to counties. We want to let them know what the counties are doing with them generally, but there's no requirement.
That's
on how you do it.
What is our potential opportunity here?
So,
You got a rough
I
idea?
don't, because I have no fiscal information on how much you even spend on public defense here. So I would be happy to help you figure that out, but I would need to know more about the budgets and things like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't have that.
Yeah, I wonder if we could do that. I wonder if we could gather that, because I believe Rachel could share that in the interim, but maybe we could have another meeting with the judge. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe a
sounds
couple
good.
people from the council, if he doesn't want to make it a big thing first, I don't know, maybe Rachel, you could reach out and say that
I think.
Do we know that we
it
wanna
needs to be a
recommend it at
public
least?
meeting. I would rather it all be public, for the public's information, rather than, just somebody speaking privately.
I'm saying the presentation, like that he may want to be like familiarized with, if he
Oh,
doesn't
right,
know
like,
about the
if
program
you
first.
Come back
I can come back, I can do whatever you need to do.
Is
When the
this,
judge is here.
how long has this program been in place?
Just a couple of years for
Couple of
this.
years.
The commission's been around since '89 and
Okay,
we've been doing the 40% since the mid-90s.
okay, and this is, the funds are federal funds?
These are federal funds. That's exactly right.
I definitely think we need to.
Yeah.
move forward.
And I will
Yeah,
say,
I
Talk
it's,
to the judge.
in no way do I want to mislead that this is going to be a ground changing, life altering situation for your county, but it is free money
Great.
that you're passing up, one. And two, is the form is largely the same as what you would have to complete for the 40%. And if you wanted to investigate what you would need to do to be able to come in compliance, we would have all the information to easily say, this is what you would have to do, it would cost this much, or you'd already in compliance or whatever. We would have that information available to have that conversation in a year's time or something.
I recall
this
from that
opportunity.
Zoom seminar also, and I think it might be important for the council to hear that. At that time, you had stated that you guys can actually send personnel to the county to help train
So
whoever.
yes,
is assigned to
so
that and
you are
train.
not on your own in filling out the forms. We have a couple rules on how to count cases. Because Chin's cases involve sometimes very large families and we don't count it per child, for example, we count it per parent because you represent the parents in those cases normally. And so we have some little rules like that about counting cases, and Odyssey typically counts the cases the same way when you generate those reports. But what we often do is we just have like a Teams or a Zoom meeting where we go over those forms and then we are available to answer questions. We can come to the county, but most prefer just to do it quickly over, in a 30-45 minute training. Go
I just
over it.
remember you guys said you'll
Yeah.
provide
We
the
provide the
training,
training.
you pretty much provide everything.
Yeah.
And then one question, Councilman Black and I both have is, as far as opting out,
Mhm.
you can do that at any time, like you can participate one quarter and then if it.
100%. There's no agreement. The agreement is not that you will do it forever. The agreement is just this, what you will do in order to get the reimbursement. If you don't complete the form in a given quarter, you just won't get the reimbursement. And we would be telling you, hey, we need your form, but there's no sanction. There's no risk here is what I'm trying to say.
So when you've worked with the counties that have chosen not to opt in, can you share with us like what that reasoning has been behind? No, I
Opt in
don't
for
want the
4E
free
or the
money.
40%, the 4E.
Yeah,
So I have not yet spoken, okay, that's not true. Wayne County is the only county I've spoken to that is not yet opted in or not working on opting in, relatively soon. And the main reason there is the county council a couple people went really hard at the judges for the 40% reimbursement without engaging in real conversation against my recommendations, and had a meeting without me present where a lot of misinformation about how the program even works was stated.
Yeah.
And the whole thing got shut down and now everybody's afraid to even touch 4E.
Yeah, that's why.
But that's why I
talked
was
about
never, I always say start with 4E because it's all you're doing is filling out a form. You know what I mean? It's really simple.
I want to make
honestly.
sure we start with the judge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he would be the one who would sign the
So
agreement. in.
have the judge come to this? or
I would
is
say
it
that
really-
if Rachel can reach out to the judge and then maybe line Derek up, or if he wants any of us involved or all of us, but bringing the judge to a public meeting to talk about something that he hasn't ever been briefed on is pretty unfair, and I don't want to create, some
Yeah.
a rift
Yeah.
by.
we don't want to make him feel blindsided.
Yes,
That's
right.
Whatever you guys want to do, I'm available, like I say, for phone calls, Teams meetings, Zoom meetings, whatever. I can come in person to a meeting that's on the record, off the record. I don't care. Every county chooses to operate differently, and I fully respect that. You guys know your people and your players much better than I ever would, and so I'm just available for whatever you need from me. I had somebody attend and was asked to come present to you guys this program, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm here now to answer any other questions you have about it. But my opinion of it is it's ultimately very low risk. And for when you have only one court filling out the information, it's much easier. It's actually harder when you have multiple judges who all have to coordinate their appointments and get that data to us than one.
Right.
And I would guess that if any of us that have questions too about how a court might be like this, I bet you we could contact any of the staff at Pulaski County and find out how they're doing with it down there, similar in demographics and stuff.
Yeah, we love Pulaski County, actually. They're great. They do a wonderful job, and their judge is super supportive of the commission and actually wants to do more. My email address is here. If anybody wants to reach out to me, our general email address there. my director of operations, who would do the training most likely, for filling out the form, is there as well. So we can answer any questions you have. Feel free to reach out to whoever you want. I just would say if you talk to a non-participating county, to come back to me with questions from what you hear, because those are the counties that don't understand the program because we haven't participated. They haven't participated.
That's
That's
pretty
where
clear to us.
you-
We're not participating for 2 years now and then
Right.
several years for the 40%. So obviously we don't understand it either, but we're interested always if we can benefit our economy here, but also benefit the people that need attorneys.
100%.
Need those things.
And I would say the number one thing with the judges right now is just that they think there is some level of compliance with something other than reporting that they can't achieve or they don't want to achieve.
Yeah.
That's not required.
Well,
That may be
the other thing too is it's always difficult if it looks like some, from the bottom up, we're trying to give people more work. So it sounds like it's not a lot of work, but I think they need to see that for themselves too, before we try to say that we're, giving them.
100%. I think to recognize there is some work and those incentive funds you can use however you want. If you want to provide a portion of that to that person or people, or if they have the time to do it, whatever, it works for you guys. That is up to you how you use the incentive funds as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Very informative.
Of course.
I'm sure Rachel can handle it.
Yeah, she can do it.
For Rachel.
Oh, before we go,
Rachel,
before we go to Cassie's item, just to let everybody know. I should know this. Bernadette's not here because I already talked to Bernadette. She had a question about city court and the election, but it was taken care of already, so it's not an issue, so she won't be joining us.
So the
Sorry.
payments and.
That's what, yes, it had actually been made.
Oh,
Good.
on- It cleared January 2nd.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I got a hold of the city clerk's office on.
I thought.
Yeah.
Cassie?
Okay, well, the next thing on the agenda is what I've decided to call the Broad Shoulders Award. And I wanted to be clear that with this, I'm acting in an individual capacity and not as a council representative. However, what I wanted to do is start a monthly program to recognize people in our community who are really going above and beyond just, their daily lives to reach out and really make a difference in other people's lives. So I solicited nominations through Facebook, of course. It's a very effective method to get a lot of information out quickly. And I came across an individual who's here today, and her name is Billy Jo Radowski-Watiziak. Did I pronounce it?
Yes, you did.
Okay. And she, I asked her to provide for me a little bit of information about herself. So with everybody's permission, I'll go ahead and fill you in on her. She was born and raised in Chicago, and she's been in Indiana since she was 18. Her parents raised 7 children, and she's taught that if she can help someone, she should, no matter how small. And she learned from her parents, who are always generous and always offered to help others. They always had extra people hanging around their house. Then when her dad was 50, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and her mom took care of him. So that's the reason they decided to leave the city and move to Indiana, where her grandparents and family members live. That way her dad could get care that he needed in a home setting and not worry about him leaving the house and getting hit by a car or otherwise injured. The doctor lived down the road and made house calls. Her mom was the strongest person she knew, and she strives to be half the woman that her mom was. Her mom took care of her father for almost 17 years at home, and then he ended up passing away. So Billy Jo gained her instincts as a caregiver from her mom, who was an awesome role model for her. Then in 2009, her husband, Billy Jo's husband, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. They had an 18-year-old, 13-year-old, and a 3-year-old living at home, and her husband was the only breadwinner because she had normally stayed home to raise the kids. She's seen what the effects of cancer can do to a person, because she says, honestly, her husband was the first person that she was close to that had cancer. Then a little bit later, a few years later, her mother-in-law was diagnosed with the rare form of blood cancer, and Billy Jo took her to her appointments and would sit with her for 7 to 8 hours while she was getting her infusions. So Billy Jo would call her the night before, and her mother-in-law would tell her what she would like to eat. And then the next day, when it was time to give her mother-in-law a snack or lunch because of the chemo side effects. Then her mother-in-law would be unable to eat anything that she packed, so she'd have to run to the store and get her broth, juice, water, or something soft, applesauce, something that wouldn't upset her stomach. So after these experiences, Billy Joe decided to start putting together, I call them necessity bags or care packages for other chemotherapy patients whom I would guess you don't even know them, right? They're just strangers that you are doing this for. So she got the idea that she just wanted to go out and deliver bags to people who were going through chemotherapy. And so she made me aware that she foots most of the bill for all of these bags herself. And is it about 30 bags a month you're delivering?
It depends. Sometimes I'll have just like 5, and then sometimes I'll have like 25. And it just depends on when people get a hold of me and tell me.
I know there was a picture on Facebook where she just had a huge gathering of bags that were getting ready to go out. So she not only provides mostly on her own the supplies that go in the bags, but then you guys also deliver them all yourselves, right?
I have my daughters that help me and my hubby, and
So it's a family
Yeah.
effort.
we just get in the car and just go around and drop off wherever we have to go. I make a list.
So she has an Amazon wish list too that I'm sure it's been posted on Facebook. But I'm sure she'd be happy to share it with anybody if anybody wants to contribute any items or funds. I'm sure wouldn't be turned down either. So anyway, she also says that she's met some incredible, beautiful people along the way, people who are going through horrible disease, yet they still want to give back and think of others. And she's delivered over 275 bags since she started this in Starke, Porter, and Pulaski County. So she's just giving back to the people around her, and just because out of empathy and love for her fellow human beings. And now I will be quiet, and if you would like to say anything, please feel free.
I don't know. You said pretty much everything. It's just something that I wanted to do during COVID. I wanted to do something before. And then when COVID hit, I was thinking because we were at home doing nothing. And I was like, I want to do something to help people that I know who are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's all started, I have had a sister who lost a husband to cancer, another sister whose husband's going through cancer, my husband who's still going through cancer. So it's just so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just came up with the idea, and I told him, and my harebrained idea, and he's like, yeah, let's go for it. And I have my 3 girls help me. They help me make the bags, and my little granddaughter. And then we just take a list and just go out and just start delivering. I'll do Pulaski County, and then I'll do Starke. I'll go to Porter. And then I take my brother-in-law to South Bend for his cancer treatments because he can't drive. And I'll sometimes take bags with me up there, and I see people and I'll just give them bags because I can't help it. I mean, if it helps somebody just for 2 minutes to know that someone cares about them, is thinking about them, and they're not alone. Because even if you are diagnosed with cancer or someone you love and you have your whole family and your whole community around you, you still sometimes feel alone. And it's just my way or our way actually, of just giving back a little, making people feel a little bit better and knowing. And I also tell them to reach out to me. I give them my cell phone number, and I've helped people with resources on people who want group meetings, or if they have doctor questions, I'll send them in the right direction of where to go. And so I try to help them. And I usually get back quite a bit of feedback from people who have questions, because some people are just newly diagnosed like us and didn't know where to go or what to do. And then that helps them out. So I try to do as best I can with that. So
I just want to say thank you. And I think I can speak on behalf of Starke County as a community to say thank you. And I just have a certificate for you and a small token of my own appreciation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Any comments or discussions?
Great.
That's
Very.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up on Facebook and see what I can do to help personally.
The next thing,
Check out our wish list.
Repost your wish
So,
list.
It's
Sure will.
absolute, it is the maximum amount of benefit for the least amount of money.
Alright.
This,
Yeah.
I will.
You bargain
Shops.
I will.
People will donate on my wish list and then I tell sometimes,
I need a
you
personal.
know,
touch.
I can go and get it cheaper other places. So sometimes I'll just go and get things on my
I'm
own.
shopping, you impressed my wife. And I.
thank you again.
Thank you.
So as Frank's coming up, I did attend the commissioners meeting, today, so they did approve a couple of different things. I added the quick thing on here too. But Frank is posing a couple of vehicles that the commissioners have already approved. They're used vehicles, very budget minded. And we also have to approve his budget.
Oh, that's right, because it had to be changed, right?
They include the new health funding, from Health First Indiana.
Yeah.
I think, that's kind of gonna be a work in progress, like, nobody knows today.
I've got a
what-
fine tuned buzz,
Yeah.
it's gonna be right now, to see
That's
where.
what I mean, it's a work in progress.
I've got money set aside, I'm trying to do some with Bellavita to do STD testing, increase, pregnancy testing, and then try and do something with some type of prenatal clinic, so we've got something in the county.
Well, the sky's the limit. Yeah.
As far as like they need go kits, the schools, North Judson needs defibrillators, I've got a bunch of little stuff on the burner.
Partnerships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as far as trying to work with everybody and
So,
we've been collecting for.
let's do the budget first. Does anybody have any questions about the budget? We did have leadership from the health department come here and talk to us about Health First. A lot of questions were asked, but they said as well that, it's kind of a work in progress. They had some things to recommend. I don't know if they've gotten back to us yet about the KPIs. Like there's some things that are outstanding too, that they're gonna give some feedback on as well, but
Work in progress first.
from the top, it's, they're very excited about it. I know when we were a couple weeks ago down in the State House for the meeting, the state legislators are all excited about what it's gonna do for counties like ours too.
In your motion, I just need Fund 1161 and the total.
Which is 263 something.
263, 25, 27.
I'll make a motion that we accept the appropriation as listed for the health department, updated in the combined ledger of $263,825.27.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Is there any opposed?
Good thing, right?
And then, did you want to, you don't have necessarily pass anything out. Did you want us to tell us about did you want to tell us?
Two vehicles, Lock Monday, they got rid of, they approved our Focus this morning. Well, that one got sold. So he has a Nissan Versa. It's 3 years newer and $1,100 more. And it's got about the same mileage on it, 68,000 miles. So it's a good deal for what I've been able to find. And then the Explorer, it's a 21. It's got 62,000 miles on it. They want 25, 24.99, something like that for it. Just under 25. So altogether, it comes to just over $40,000. What commissioners approved me to.
Was up to, what I suggested, just in case something falls through, the commissioner, an amount up to that.
And that's what I asked
Up to
Lock Monday to
40,000.
do is give me both of them under 40 grand with the closing costs, whatever, and we don't pay taxes, so. He said that should be workable, so test driving them tomorrow, and as long as there's nothing wrong with them,
He's paying this from his 168.
that will be coming out of 1,168, because I have
That was my next question.
$259,000 in that account, so
Yeah.
40,000 of it going towards that, we can use that money for whatever we need at this point, so.
That was my next question.
We can get into that with the remodel. So, I've only got 26,000 out of the 1161. I've got more sitting in there that we can use without restriction.
Yeah.
Towards something like that himself. I'll pay for it.
I make a motion to,
We have a motion from Bruce. Is there a second?
Yeah.
I think Cassie got that one first. Sorry.
Fine.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Thank you, Frank.
Thanks. Hope you're
Next,
doing good.
How you feeling?
just to get it in terms of
We've been
time,
keeping your prayers out of
I'm
the way.
gonna move actually to the highway department.
Have a good night.
I brought a short note that I asked Dan to make for me a long time ago, but if you want to pass this down just to see where the vehicles are. But I did confirm with Rachel that the oldest vehicle right now is a 2005. This mileage is not correct. It's about, some of them are 20 to 40,000 more because this was like a year ago that I asked Dan to make this for me, but that's in addition to what you have there if you want something that's kind of simplified.
Okay, so, it's a little lengthy, just bear with me. Prior to 2019, MVH Motor Vehicle Highway was one fund. All state MVH revenue went into 1176. State legislation changed that December 18, 2018 into two funds. So we have MVH 1176 and then MVH restricted 1173. MVH restricted can only be spent on construction, reconstruction, and preservation of the roadways. Prior to 2019, the MVH balance was fully executed during the year as it should be. Those funds should be put into the roadways. As an example, the carryover balance over the years has been the following: 2016, 337, 2017, 272, 2018, 384,000. These are reasonable cash balances to carry over into the new year. Since the creation of MVH and MVH restricted in 2019, we have all been learning how to use the MVH restricted through our audits. Currently, MVH restricted has a balance of 1.5 million. I would like to transition some of our CCMG matching grant money to come from MVH restricted rather than seeded. This year, we have applied for the first call of CCMG grants, and this consists of an HMA overlay on 600 North between 600 East and State Road 23 and 400 North between US 35 and Range Road. And then also an HMA overlay in Johnson subdivision, which is the subdivision we had put almost $200,000 into unexpectedly last year from a plat that was approved in 2010. The matching amount for this project would be estimated at 500,000. Normally, we would use seed it for grant matches, but I would like to use 500,000 of the cash balance in MVH restricted to create a CCMG appropriation line. These particular funds are not meant to sit and accumulate. These funds are collected from gas taxes and they need to be put back in our roadways and our infrastructure. Bridges, when I say infrastructure, bridges. Along the same discussion, LRS, Local Road and Street 1169 is a fund that prior to 2019 was used mainly for aggregates. When they changed the MVH funds, they tweaked LRS and its use was going to be for purchasing trucks and other road equipment. The carryover cash balance for the last few years in LRS have been the following: 2016, $16,000, 2017, $16,000, 2018, $85,000. I'm just trying to give you guys a rough estimate of what normally would be carried over. This fund now has a carryover balance of $532,500. I believe the highway funds have not been utilized correctly for the past few years. I would like to spend $200,000 of that carryover balance toward a new single axle international dump truck and also a $48,600 pickup. The department has not had a new truck purchased in the past several years. I think we had one in 2021, but that's when I was at the department years ago, we used to get one big truck, one pickup, and one piece of road equipment every year.
You tried to tell me two trucks, by the way.
Yes, I
You
know,
did
you're
credit me that.
Yeah.
That was right.
Let's not have an argument again.
Yeah.
These funds are meant to be spent on equipment to help the department maintain the roadways. In conclusion, I'm asking for a $500,000 appropriation and MVH restricted to be used on CCMG projects and a $200,000 appropriation to be used on a single axle truck. And also your permission to purchase a $48,600 pickup that I already have the appropriation for, but I do have the $10,000 limit. I have the funds in LRS for all of these purchases. I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking to utilize the cash balance in the fund.
Bitch, perhaps.
Stop. Hives, yes, you guys give me hives.
The audience can't see, sorry, I was just making sure she was okay.
Rachel, you're gonna get them worse here in about 1 second when I get done talking.
Can, concur, like that can lead to airway restriction and things if you're, having an allergic
got my
reaction.
back,
I'm
right?
not-
Don't
I'm
let
just making
anybody
sure.
else. If I go down, you're it.
You're good.
I hope we have enough.
Can-
I'll protect
Can
you.
can we discuss this or you want to vote?
Uh,
Cause I don't want a motion yet.
Okay, well, one of the things I wanted to say too was taking note of that is you did mention you still want to work with me on reducing our contribution from seeded to the highways too, so we can appropriate it elsewhere. So go ahead.
I agree with everything that's in here, with the exception of one thing. And I'm not gonna waver on this because I guess I don't know enough about it, but when I was highway superintendent and Bruce was the commissioner, I'm talking about Johnson subdivision. We had that whole discussion about all these subdivisions that are being created and everybody wanted them all paved. And what did we do? We didn't do it.
We didn't do it.
And now we were setting a precedent that we're doing it. So I will not support that part of this. I will not
agree
do
with
it.
you,
I
But
will not do it.
Justin.
Unless Justin tells me something different.
Yes, so this is that subdivision that the plat and all the specs and everything was approved in 2010. So something that we had no part of,
And
like any of
I
us.
don't,
had no
I don't want to
part.
object, but I was sitting next to you, remember, I don't know if you recall that, I said, Justin, do we have to do
That-
it?
that's what I
Because they
wanna
kept
know.
going on and on about this deal, and I just looked at our attorney, and I said, do we have to do this? And he says, yes, you do.
Oh.
You've been paid to do it, you have to do it,
So we're receiving.
and that's where it went.
Oh, because it was on the inventory.
And that, you remember, it's like, you kept on, I was like.
I know, and I still don't like it.
We went through that.
And I'm still,
So
I
feel
still
like-
don't want to vote for it. I don't care if we have to pass it, but I do not want to vote for it.
My road has Justin.
I will abstain because it's a bad precedent. And I understand if we have to do it, we have to do it, but it's gonna come back and bite us right, you know where.
We went through our.
So there you go.
inventory
So-
quite often.
So if we're gonna do this, I would like to have several motions. So I have the chance to abstain on that one.
Just 1 second. You had a question, Edward?
Can
I'm
we
just
just do the
curious.
vehicles together?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. So first of all, I think it's amazing, Rachel, that you came up with, that you found that this was there, right? I guess my question is, I know you made the comment that, right, you guys are still learning how to use the fund. But I'm just curious how we get to the end of each year up to this point, pre-you. And as a county, we didn't see, wow, we've got $500,000 sitting in a ledger. We're not doing anything.
Oh, no, this isn't found money.
No.
We're just, like, the county does that with a lot of things. Like, we don't spend all of taxpayer dollars. Some of it we save. What she's saying is we don't have to save that like we do with some other funds.
Right,
But we have a lot of things that we save.
that we're rolling over.
We do it in cash
Or we
balance.
just save, just in case we have an emergency. Like, there's a lot of things that can come up in a county that, instantaneously need hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Understood.
So this isn't like, like we didn't know what was going on, that we found some money somewhere. We knew that money was there. We knew we could use it. I've been trying to dig into that money for a long time to move it different places. It's just now we've got agreement with somebody that's working with us in that department to change things up a little bit and spend it differently.
Right, and that's, I guess, the point I was getting at, because you made, and maybe it's hard to hear back here, but. You said it's meant to be spent for these things that we're now getting ready to spend it on. So I was just curious why. We hadn't been spending it previously.
So up to,
And I just-
2020, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so prior to that, you just didn't have the answer.
Yeah, like
Okay.
when I was out there with the previous superintendent, so we could take those funds and we'd say, okay, we're gonna get, a new team on the new pickup.
Right.
And this.
The equipment you were talking
Yeah,
about,
piece of
right?
road equipment every year, and he'd budget that like 5 years in advance.
Okay,
So he had an asset management plan 5 years in advance, we'd already know like what we're gonna.
What you're gonna get.
Yeah, but
we don't know why
After-
we stopped
Yeah,
doing
I
that
don't-
is the question. Okay, so we don't really know the answer to why we
right, that is
Got it.
correct.
got it. Okay.
But it's
thank
still there.
you. But it is, yeah, I knew it was still there.
So if we can-
That's what I was just trying to understand is how we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
better
yeah.
handle the fact that we had this there. Hopefully using it
All right.
as.
Yeah.
He's gonna make a motion.
Somebody's gonna have to make a motion here. I'm gonna make one, even though.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to buck what Justin thinks. I'm just bucking what I think is right. Whether it's legal, well, I shouldn't say whether it's legal, whether we have to do it or not. Let's put it that way. All right, in regards to the matching funds. To go to the community crossing grants. I can't make a motion for something I'm gonna abstain from, can I?
Oh, no, you'd be emotionally in favor of it, you're right.
Yeah, I can't do that. That doesn't even make any sense. But I will make a motion that we use this money for the community crossing grants for the overlay on 600 north between 600 east and State Road 23 and 400 north between US 35 and Range Road. So
That's okay, you can stop there. I can, if I can use it on those two things, I'll work out the other.
well, we can still vote on it. It can still be passed, but I'm not voting for it. I mean, plain
But if
and
you
simple.
wanna make that motion.
Yeah,
and stop.
that's where I'm stopping.
Okay.
I'm stopping with that motion.
I'll second it.
Have a second from Kay. Is there any further discussion?
I just have a question. What's HMA stand for?
Hot mix.
Hot mix asphalt.
So it's gonna be like 2 inches mainly, but some places we might mill down farther and it might be up to 5 inches, so it's like a 2-inch HMA overlay.
Okay, thank you.
Pretty standard.
Is there
I'm
any,
kidding, Scott. So you can hear me all the way over there?
I heard that.
did you have something to do?
Not that you can put over
Is
there.
there any more discussion?
No, no.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion carries, Rachel.
I still have more on the table.
Yeah, there's still more.
It was just the trucks, right?
Yeah.
If you're ready for a motion for the vehicles, I would like to do that.
I'm ready, Bruce.
Oh, Sunday. Dave,
Yeah, I have, just a comment about that, like, so if it goes. Like your pickup truck quotes. Are through Oliver Ford,
That's what
but is that by a source well?
No, I presented multiple quotes to the commissioners this morning, and this is the one that they chose.
They chose this over Sourcewell?
I didn't look for Sourcewell for pickups. Sourcewell to me is more for the big.
Oh, they do pickups too. They do fire departments, all kinds of things. Okay, I didn't know why there wasn't a, because I heard Sourcewell earlier. I just didn't see
No,
a Sourcewell.
Sourcewell
truck.
just for the single.
Okay,
48.6.
yeah, 48.6 is the low bid on that.
Oh, she said she presented this 3 quotes I've seen.
Yeah.
Oliver, Winnick, and off Monday.
Sorry to interrupt you, Bruce. Go ahead. I should have waited until this discussion. Go ahead.
no, I'm prepared to make a motion that we accept the bid from Oliver for the $48,600 for the pickup. And is this from Sourcewell on the international? The $104,210 for the single axle truck.
It's
No, it's more than
just for the gas.
Yeah, you gotta get the whole
For
thing.
the whole thing, it's 208.
Yeah, it's on the back of it.
Very last page of
Yeah, last page.
Linco.
Probably in the quick quote there. I don't see that.
There you go.
It's on here. On the very last
It's the
page.
Linco quote, not the one with the truck on it.
It's right back.
Different.
208.
Yeah, it's 208,
Yeah.
850.
And you say you have funding for all of that,
Yes,
but this is including the plow, the box and
Yes.
everything.
yes.
Okay,
It's,
not just a truck, not just a.
Yeah, it's all on here.
it's correct.
Well, I'll make the motion to accept that also, $208,850.
We have amended motion, or continued motion. Is there a second?
Second, yeah, okay.
I think Howard got you. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All in favor, Rachel? Yeah, we're better stuff. That's curious. Yeah. Right.
So what are we doing about Johnson subdivision? We're not doing anything about it? You're gonna figure that out, or we're gonna make a motion? I'm gonna abstain. I mean, I don't care. I mean, I'm not afraid to
You
abstain.
wanna wait?
I'll just use other funds to pay for our portion of the matching grant for Johnson.
Well, let's think about this reasonably for a minute. Okay, as much as I'm totally 100% against it, where are you gonna take those other funds from?
The already appropriated roads and bridge seated appropriation that's already approved.
See, you're putting me in a real catch-22 here, and I'm not liking it.
The reason I have, so I'm liable to do it, right? This guy says I'm liable to do it. So that's why I put it in a CCMG.
Okay.
So at least 80% would be. covered by
Okay,
the
so,
state.
so if it's in our best interest monetarily to do it the way you originally wanted to do it, I'm okay with that because I'm all about money, even though
Is
I
that a
don't-
motion then?
I'm not making the motion. You guys make them, I'm not making the motion. I made the other motion.
I have a question. So, okay, so with this $200,000, in some of the past discussions about the exceeding the highway department's budget, not overspending, because I think a good point was made last week at the town hall meeting that he just kind of bought everything too quickly. It wasn't things we needed the stuff, but he just went ahead and did it like kind of off schedule. So I keep hearing about that $200,000 being part of that money.
Yes.
So are you saying then we can get 80% of it back from the
No.
state?
No, that's
So,
the
no,
percent of the
unfortunately,
match.
that was the base that they laid down last year. So in September-ish, I think, is when the highway department laid the base down in Johnson subdivision after our initial discussion with Justin and about the plat that was approved and all the specs that we had to adhere to in the plat on the roadway. So that the 427,000 that he kind of
Went crazy.
yeah, went crazy with 200,000 of that was the material costs and the labor costs for the Johnson subdivision project that we had to do. But that's only for the base. The specs in the plat say that we have to do an HMA overlay over it, so we still need to hot move this.
And then I just feel like it's important to stress too, that this is something that was done back in 2010.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons we have to do it, because we've already received money from the state.
Because it was on the
back
inventory.
then.
I wanted a chance to
Yeah.
explain a little bit more, because I realized it was a discussion that was had over a year ago. Yeah, back in 2010, when the commissioners approved to put this on the county's inventory, the state through NDOT started giving us tax monies that were appropriated from local tax dollars to use for that roadway. So now for 14 years, and I don't know why they did it back in 2010. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing. Maybe it was just a bad decision. We've been receiving 14 years worth of tax dollars for a paved road because we held ourselves out, just explaining to everybody here, held ourselves out. I have used that same argument now to winning effect in court where we have challenges around the lake. That, hey, if it is held out by the commissioners as being a public highway or thoroughfare, then, Tom and Cindy at Bass Lake that want to try to take some of our property and say, no, this is private property. I've used that same argument to say, no, the commissioners have approved that. And that's one. So we can't now, go against state tax dollars we've been receiving, because we'll get hit with big fines by the state and probably worse than the $200,000 we're having to use to pave some of this over. So I just wanted to say it for it because there's reference
No, I'm
to
not okay with it.
talk with Justin a year ago. I want to make sure everyone knew.
And the thing is that those roads never should have been on the inventory as a paved road. If they would have been on as an unimproved road, we wouldn't have been in the situation we're in right now, right?
I thought we voted on this once before and approved that. Because I remember everybody just kind of being like.
No, we did, and that's when you had mentioned, said, we had- and I said, basically, we kept going on and on about it, right? I didn't want to
I'm
do it
still
either,
going
but I
on and on
just
about
looked at the attorney, who I trust, our attorney. said,
Yeah,
Do we have to do it? He says, yes.
I
It's
trust
like,
him and
well,
I know
why-
it's, but it doesn't make it, I don't have to
No, I
agree.
don't like it either.
Some answers I don't like to give.
I know, Justin.
That was put on long after we.
Yeah, I know it was, but it doesn't matter. It's just that
Well,
somebody made maybe an unintentional clerical error because they thought, well, yeah, we're gonna do this sometime, but if we do it now, we're gonna get more money this whole time. And then never thinking about what's gonna happen in the end when somebody finally calls you out. And it's like,
It'd be interesting to see how much money we got out over those
well, you can figure it out. I mean,
14 years. Or does it come close to what we're gonna have to pay?
I don't know what I don't know what.
Rachel, this is a situation that we have, I believe we have voted on
I think we do too.
it. And our attorney advises us that we're legally contracted to do this. What form of motion do you need to get this done? What kind of motion?
I have, you guys, I have all the motions that I need. Were your?
Well, no, hold on a minute now.
Were you changing your motion?
I'm not changing,
Yeah,
I'm
no.
not changing that motion. That motion's done.
Okay.
But,
A potential motion is to take the 200,000 from CCMG.
Yes.
That's what the
Yeah.
potential
well, no,
motion-
no, it's to take it from unrestricted and put it
Yeah.
to match the
right,
CCMG
yeah,
is what it
yeah.
is. Now. Since we have to. That is a more viable way for us to do it instead of taking it from seeded. Because I don't like taking anything from seeded,
So I'll ask
I think
again, are you
seeded should
making
be
a
lower,
motion?
to be honest with you.
But he said, no, he wasn't.
No, he's not going to.
I won't make the motion.
So I basically need a motion that just says I can appropriate $500,000 out of MVH restricted toward 2024-01 CCMG.
So then we have to rescind my original motion.
Yes.
What's the number? 22 dash.
I gotta leave like in 2 minutes, so we
2024,
better
yeah.
decide what we're gonna do. Why can't you just add a motion for Johnson subdivision?
You can add them, that's fine.
Yeah, well, why, I'm not gonna add the motion, I said somebody can.
What fund does it need to come out of, Rachel?
It's
Unrestricted.
MVH restricted,
220.
How much money? 500,000?
500,000. So,
I'd like to make a motion that we take $500,000 from MVH restricted for the completion and of the Johnson subdivision roads that we're obligated to complete.
That's not right.
It's to the 2024-01.
yes,
Sorry, it's to that fund.
To the-
Howard. That's only
okay.
one, the 200,000 is only one of the things
yes,
Okay,
to
I'll
fund
start over.
2024-01.
yes.
I would like to take 500,000. I'd like to put a motion on the board that we take $500,000 from the MVH restricted fund,
Unrestricted.
unrestricted fund, excuse me.
Restricted. I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Restricted.
I'm getting wiped out here.
And now.
What do you mean?
That's good, that will work.
Okay,
You see a second.
I'll second it.
We have a second, and since we've had so much discussion, I'll ask all those in favor to please say aye. Is there any opposed?
I abstain,
And one abstention.
Okay.
because now we have two motions that we approved. My original motion,
Would you like to rescind
which
your?
was not
original-
rescinded,
Would you
no,
like
I
to
will not
rescind it?
rescind my first motion.
What was the first motion again?
My motion was to take for the first two, for the two. Not including Johnson subdivision, okay, and we passed that, now we just passed another one for all of it all over again. Plus,
You're abstaining from.
yes, but now we have two motions passed, so now we have way more than what we need.
So now she has $1 million, not.
Okay, in the,
She'll take care of it.
no, I want to use the money right. I don't want us to be spending seeded money just because.
No, it's a redundant approval. It's overlapping.
Can't you just rescind?
I will send my motion.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Is there any
Nay.
opposed?
One name should still be good.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta be in a car at 5 o'clock, it's 5:01.
Okay, I'm good.
I don't mean to be out
I think
there.
Harry's here. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see you through the.
Oh, that's
phone.
okay. Bob and I are here.
I saw, I was just gonna say, maybe Bob's gonna talk about.
I gotta do
Try to make this quick.
I'll just, I was at the commissioner's meeting today, and I'll hand this out about solid pathways if you wanna, everyone's.
We've got extra copies.
Oh, you do, okay.
Yeah, Bob brought extra.
Want that back?
I just sat outside.
Sitting right here. and
The bolt was in your way.
Yeah.
I'll take that as I'm skinny enough to hide behind the wall. It was a compliment.
I actually didn't see Sherry sneak in either, but now that I lean forward, hi Sherry.
I do. David. Use that one.
Only Sherry, and then when my grandma was alive, and I was in trouble. That's it.
You guys ready?
I'm Robert Alloy with Territorial Engineering and this is Mary Curran with the Starke County Economic Development Foundation. So Mary and I are here today because we were both involved in the first step that would go around the first
Constellation of Starke.
In which, you know, obviously we didn't win that competition, but we took basically second place. We used about $330,000 for local funds to do projects around the state. I think the most important part of that is that we developed a regional development plan. Which looks like that.
Pull this out here and I'll be your Van White.
Yeah.
This is the regional development plan for Stellar that was developed in 2019.
So in that plan, we basically developed several projects or partial projects in Starke County. Since we lost that competition, there's plenty of projects in there that we went ahead either using some of that $330,000 or we secured other grants or county money or private money to get through those projects. So a couple examples of those are the Wythagen Park Pavilion, Bass Lake Trailhead, the restroom project at Norwayne Field in North Judson, the solar system and scale on the Erie Trail, Coons Lake Fire Department Equipment Building. And there's currently one of the developers that helped us with the housing component of this thing is going through with a grant opportunity to put more housing in North Judson. And we also identified these connecting trails on the Erie Trail in North Judson. So we're here today to tell you about the next iteration of Stellar, which they call Stellar Pathways, which is, it's a lot of the same, but it's a little bit different. So I just want to kind of explain through this real quick here of what this is all about. So that the current program encourages strategic planning and the use of previous planning documents such as this, or whatever municipality, whatever municipalities involved with the county, they may have plans. I mean, the city of Knox, I know, has a sewer water plan they just did. And I'm sure the county and all the other municipalities have plans for projects that they're already working on. So we're thinking we can enter the Stellar competition with what we've done previous and with what we have currently going on in the county, because we continue to use this document separate of Stellar to kind of grow the community. So to be eligible for this Stellar Pathways effort, I don't know if you want to.
I can talk about this. The eligibility, there has to be a county-wide entity to lead this. And it makes the most sense for county government to be that entity. And we went to the commissioners this morning. They gave their blessing, and we would like the blessing from the council as well. Let me put everyone's mind at ease. We're not asking for money right now. We're asking for a blessing to get more information about what this entails. Because as we will explain, there are a lot of steps that need to be accomplished in a short amount of time. And even then, that's not a guarantee that the state will choose us as one of 4 participating or regions. And by region, they mean county. That question was asked this morning. Is a region, multi-counties? No, they treat, for the sake of this program, a region as a county. But we would like your blessing to go forward with that. So it would be a county-wide entity would lead this, and they must also partner with at least 2 individual municipalities. And in our instance, it would make sense to have all 3. North Judson and Hamlet are already on board. Knox is considering it because we're still in the information gathering phase, but that would show a united region. And all of the communities participating, including county government, would have to commit 5 years to the program, which would include capacity building training, community engagement strategies, and asset identification and project prioritization and implementation. And that is a fancy way of saying, take all of these plans, throw them in the middle of a table. Let's put ideas on the board and see what comes out of that and what the priorities are to get that done.
So the eligible projects, and just because these are eligible does not mean that we would take on every single one of these. But eligible projects fall into 3 categories. Bob, do you want to talk about those?
So the first category would be like enhancing qualities of space, which is housing, streetscapes, facades. Your trails, your sidewalks, your roads, your bridges, stormwater, water, sewer. And gateway beautification. Well, there's those examples, so it's more like an infrastructure type of option. The other is promoting community wellness. You're talking like mental health initiatives, health and wellness, healthy food markets, substance use and abuse initiatives, musical activities, things like that. And then the third one is strengthening local economies, which includes business retention and expansion, economic gardening, which I still don't know what that is.
I'm not sure what that is either.
Entrepreneurial ecosystem development, skills for success, work-ready youth programs, and then small business revolving loan fund.
And that's something we at Economic Development have wanted to do for a long time, to have it administered through the county, but just have a dedicated pot of money where if someone is looking to establish or grow or expand a small business in Starke County, we could refer them to apply for this revolving loan and put together an ad hoc committee to review that loan application. It would just be some money at a favorable interest rate that would then be replenished into the fund and be able to be loaned out. Again, Pulaski County's done that for about the past dozen years or so, very, very successfully. So not saying we would do that, but it is something that could be funded under this and something to consider. And under the entrepreneurial ecosystem development, we already have excellent relationships with the Northwest Indiana Small Business Development Center, the Society of Innovators at Purdue Northwest. They want to come here, they want to offer programs, and this would be an opportunity to really bring that into Starke County. So a lot of opportunities that could be achieved through this, but we're not obligated to do all of these. These are just some of those ideas that would land in the middle of that table.
So the real kicker here is timelines. And true Ogre fashion, they didn't give us a lot of time on the last one either. But so the interested communities have to submit a letter of intent by May 1st. In order to submit that letter of intent, you have to have 3 to 5 members of the region must attend a required 2-day workshop. And as I showed Mary earlier, of the 3 workshops, I signed 5 people up from the county to go to the workshop, because I know the last time they filled up, and as of earlier today, they were still open. Now they're closed. So at least we got into the workshop, so we're still eligible. There's 5 members of myself, Tom Child, Mr. Ayers, Dylan, Tom Bush, Starke County Parks, Joe Lezak from North Judson, and
Mike Reeves
from Troy, he was involved in our second stellar letter of intent. He's a consultant, and as I'll hint later, you really should have a consultant on board, not me. You kind of drive not only the letter of intent, but also that what they call it, stellar implementation plan.
Absolutely. It's very involved, and Mike and Troyer were the consultants involved with Marshall County when they won Stellar in 2019, and we won 2nd place. So they've got a track record. We were going to use them in 2020, but the pandemic happened, it shut it all down, and it's just now back for the first time since then.
So once that LOI is submitted, Stellar Pathways, the Committee for Stellar Pathways determines 4 regions that enter the competition or whatever, and to move forward with the Stellar process. This time they're giving a little more money. They're giving each region $50,000 to develop their what I call regional development plan, to develop that plan. Then you got till November 1st to submit that plan to OCRA. And then in the month of November, the committee presents that plan in Indianapolis to that committee. And then what's different from last time is out of the 4 regions, they choose two. Instead of one finalist to receive the. So.
You might want to check on the consultant, because I don't know if the commissioners would be happy with that consultant.
Who would?
The commissioners. I know Todd won't be.
I talked about it this morning.
I don't know if they realize that that's who they had a problem with the last Stellar stuff. I would just talk to them. That is all I'm saying. I would talk to the commissioners about the consultant.
Yeah, we're not picking a consultant
Okay.
yet or anything.
But you're gonna have, I mean, Troy Rear's coming to your meeting that you're having though, right?
Right.
What if Troyer wasn't picked as a consultant? Would they still be part of the?
No.
Is that seat flexible if the commissioners have a change of heart as far as Troyer group?
Yeah, I guess I would want to talk to the commissioners more. The only reason. They were just, what happened there is. Not to dwell on it, but. Once we got that money. The Stellar Committee themselves had to. We had nothing left to do because we were out of Stellar and it went away. So Curb City took over. You know, we didn't win $330,000. You got access to Okra's $330,000, right? So you have to spend it their way, you know. So we came up with those projects. Troyer put those together, and then Troyer and Percy basically ran the projects. And from what I understand, I wasn't involved at that point. You know, there was no Stellar like group that, you know, I could kind of apologize to them today about it, that I wasn't involved. But what happened is there was some miscommunication about what they could and couldn't do on that trailhead project. So there wasn't enough review. And quite frankly, I don't think there's enough review on the county end of those plans and specs for that project.
Sure.
So it's not entirely the consultant's fault because the county has some accountability to review the projects that come into the county.
I guess I'm just concerned as a council, if especially if Rachel thinks that Todd's might be with the commission. I just was curious if that seat is flexible, just in case they want
Well, yeah,
somebody else to.
we have, I think at this point, what we're really going for is whether or not. You know, to me, having gone through the Stellar process. You need the cohesiveness of the county and the municipalities that are going forward with it.
Right, I'm not questioning the need for a consultant. I'm just saying if they want a different consultant.
Yeah, I mean, I nothing really controls that other than if whatever committees. That's that's part of it or pointed to it or makes those decisions.
Right.
That's why we want more people from it.
Sure.
From the.
Well, when we were talking about it together before, I suggested that a commissioner and a council person participate too. I mean, I think that was missing before.
Absolutely.
So,
And we would love to have that, but I will warn you all in advance. If we submit the letter of intent and we are selected as one of these 4 regions to participate, it is a lot of meetings. We were meeting about once a week, Bob.
Well, I mean, whoever
For the duration.
you mentioned that in the commissioners meeting, but I'm not sure why you mentioned that. So I mean,
Just
whoever does it will just have to commit to those meetings. Some of them
And
are by
that's-
Zoom, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
but I
so-
mean, it's just, I want everyone to realize it is a lengthy commitment, but yes,
I don't
we
think
would
the
love
county
to have
wants to
that
participate in something
participation.
moving forward of that level and not be involved. So somebody's gonna do it from the council and I can't speak for the commissioners. And so I just want to make sure though that it's clear, at least for me, giving support that there's deference to the commissioners though, as far as the consultant. I'm just thinking that, but personally, I want to move forward with Stella for sure.
The only reason I like I said, all those workshops were closed. You can't submit a letter of intent like you have.
Well, that's why I was asking if that seat was flexible or not, just in case the commissioners decided they didn't want to go with.
Right, I mean, my seat's flexible, to be honest with you. I mean, I would love.
No, I'm talking about the Troyer group. You're with us. I don't think their exception is with you, it's with Troyer group.
No, I get that. But what I get-
I'm not putting you under pressure to defend them or anything. I'm just saying. If we need a consultant, maybe the commissioners decide not, or a different consultant. I just don't want it to hinge on that. But when you said, I thought maybe Troyer was going to start off with, not with the assumption they were gonna be the consultant, that they were just helping.
No, I think
But
really what has to happen is from a consultant.
Yeah.
Perspective is there has to be some sort of qualifications based election process. Sure, you're choosing a
Yeah.
consultant.
I guess what I'm getting at is I don't want an implication though that they're gonna be our consultant by saying, hey, you can go to this meeting, but then them expect, like, it's unfair to them. If all of a sudden we say, hey, you're not gonna be our
No,
consultant, so I think,
I've never.
yeah, I agree with that, so let's make sure of that.
They
but
know that.
I'm fully in favor of Stellar. If one of my colleagues would like to be on the committee, I welcome that. If they won't, I will do it, but I'm more than happy.
The workshop, we've already got everyone, we could send a total of 5 people. And for the sake of expediency, unfortunately, before we came to the council and commissioners, because it was one of those things, we could always cancel it if we didn't have your blessing. But as Bob said, it filled up before even this meeting started. So that's already scheduled and the maximum number of people are going. That is March 4th and 5th.
We did try to get as many county members.
And
Because
so we may, this team may come back from this workshop and say, forget it, this is way too much to commit to. And we, for reasons that were unearthed in this workshop, we don't think this would be, and this is all highly speculative.
Well, then, if that's a possibility, then I would say somebody from the county needs to go in place of the truck guy then, because if you're gonna, like, you're not authorized to do bidding for us in any kind of a scenario. And you know what I mean, like, that, if that's the case, I think then somebody should go anyways from the county, right? I mean, right,
that's what I thought I was doing.
I don't know, from county government, I'm saying, like, if you guys have the right of refusal for it.
You mean like direct county government, or like the counselor?
Well, I mean, it sounds like that's what you're doing, right? Like you're saying the committee then will come back and decide if we're gonna participate or not.
I'm just saying, I'm saying we're not.
Well, that is what she just
Well,
said.
no, I misspoke. We're not committed to anything, but we will come back with, information from this workshop.
I thought we were gonna do it,
Alright,
like
let me-
we were already on board.
Back up a little bit. The workshops themselves, the way that it was last time, is a group of people that are committed from the county, that are committed to this, not committed in the council committee funds, but
Committed to
want to do
conservation.
a unified project.
Sure.
So they want 5 people from the same group of that region.
Yeah.
To brainstorm, and they do these exercises of, what's this, what's that, this is how it works, what do you want to see in your county? Because I went through that, when I did.
No, I think you guys did a great job. What concerned me was Mary just said you guys may come back and decide we don't want to do
But I have
it.
a question, is one of those the Troyer? From the Troyer?
The Troyer group is one of the people signed up because, and the reason we did that, we had to reserve a spot at this workshop table. And we weren't sure if we could get anyone participating. So
We only had, there was like, what, 5 of us at first, when we found out about it. 3 of us were previous Stellar members. I was the only one out of the 3 that could actually go to any one of the 3 days. Because it's a 2-day workshop, you have to pay for it yourself. You have to stay down in Danville. Oakers doesn't make it easy. They want to, I think they intentionally make it difficult.
I'm just gonna say, nobody asked the council if one of us wanted to go, so I mean, I can't really speak to that. I guess I'm back to my original thing is that the commissioners don't want to go with the Troyer group. One of them could usurp that position and go instead. That's all I'm asking. Is it a flexible seat? Or
I
one of them-
don't know, because I had to, when I went in there to sign up, I had to name the name of the county and then the person. And an email address, and that was it.
Is this person from Starke County, the Troyer person? I don't know. Okay.
So I had to name a person and then an email address. But actually, when I added, I had 4. And I was scrambling trying to find somebody to go. And then so I entered Tom, we can talk to Tom, and he decided to go, so I added his name, but then.
Well, Tom from the park board was just recent. I made that suggestion at the park board meeting just 4 nights ago, so it's been recent.
Can I speak? At the park board meeting, someone from this group had contacted Tracy to see if there was interest. And I just said, well, I'll take a look at it. And then
But I'm saying that decision was made just a few days ago. It was that night. It wasn't like there was like.
I contacted the park board. And Tracy told me she had no interest in it, but she didn't have time. So I don't think it's my position to. I mean, I'm involved in it because I see that it is a worthwhile effort. And I was involved in this part of it, and I'm willing to do what needed to be done to get it, because Oak puts these timelines that are ridiculous. So to me, to not think, I guess I didn't think of calling everyone I know.
And
You know how many times I've had to explain what Stellar Pathways is and what it is, you know, this is,
Yeah, no,
it's a lot of work.
Bob, you've done great things for us. I'm not questioning that at all. I'm just saying that, you know, in representing the commissioners now in this meeting, you know, with what they said, I'm just saying if they don't want to go with Troy Group, that's all I'm saying, because the auditor brought that up, so I'm recognizing.
Yeah, there's no,
Because we're all a team.
there's no, we haven't picked
no, we've
we
not.
don't even have a committee yet.
But
I have a question too. I mean, in the pamphlet, it says that a countywide entity must lead it, but it could be an economic development entity. So why isn't the Starke County Economic Development Foundation doing it, or, you know, taking?
Well, you're
this
talking about,
on
you're talking
instead
about
of us?
Oka grants that are running 20% of project costs.
And
So you're not
we do
gonna
not
ask the
have-
Development Foundation or the Starke County Community Foundation. Or
I-
if you come up with as a county, come up with an infrastructure project, that's millions of dollars and you wanna, and you still have to do a 20% match with.
This is why I'm concerned about the county being involved in it, because we're
Right.
spending
Right.
a lot of
Right.
taxpayer
Your-
dollars on
your-
it, so
And
that's why I was.
That's why-
And deservedly, you need to be involved in this, because in
Potential money that we'd have to contribute.
in 2019, when this
I
was
mean, isn't that
done,
what it boils
there
down
were,
to?
I mean, you were the president of the council then, Dave, but there are a lot of new faces at this table and new faces on the board of commissioners as well. And then it was, okay, here this is, do this, but no one from either body was directly involved. There were representatives from within the county government structure involved, but the council and commissioners were not directly involved in it.
All I'm gonna say is let's move forward and have more involvement from county.
And
government.
I would
We're
love to
spending
have
county
that.
money. Like, you know, Marty Lucas was involved. He was our county.
Right, Marty
attorney.
was the
Like,
county
we knew,
attorney.
like, we had skin in the game then. I'm just saying, we want skin in the game now. if we contribute that
Absolutely.
Kind of money. And, you know, we can let this first meeting slide. The only thing I'm trying to do is look out for my fellow commissioners. In case what the auditor has brought up is an issue. I'm just wondering if one of them could go instead of this Troyer person or whatever. But I'm in favor of Stella. Like, we're belaboring that part of it too much. This makes total sense. Bob has been involved in so many of the projects here. He knows a lot of what we need, trail lines, you know, kayak line, you know, like all these things. He's been involved with us. I mean, even when I had the ideas about developing Highway 35 corridor, like he had sat down with us and talked about, you know, engineering and other things. And so I mean, clearly he's, you know, like, we're not questioning that. Like, we know that your heart's in it and you're in
But
the
what
game.
was he saying about the 20% match?
We will
instead
have
of
to fund
taxpayer
that fund part of
dollars?
this, yes.
Okay, and that, I guess, would be my concern. Do we know how much we're looking at? And he said he doesn't even know.
It's
if the
millions of
person
dollars,
on
not,
Troyer
not hundreds
Can
of
be
dollars.
removed from the 5 people whose names are submitted. We don't know that.
I guess in my heart, like solar money, for example, would be a great home for these types of projects. But again, like, and I'm just, another reason why I want the county to be involved, and I also today mentioned the 9 townships having representation in there too. For me, and I'm just one person of all of you all, but I feel like every township, if they want to be involved with this, should have representation also. But that's when you decide, like, you know, like maybe if there's like a multi-million-dollar township asset that gets into the plan, like the county needs to have skin in that game too, because especially if it's not an entity, that we fund, if it's a township and it's not our asset, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, we have to be careful too, that a lion's share doesn't go to something that's inappropriate for us to be funding, like they should be doing their project, you know, that kind of thing, you know, so.
Well, it says on one of the last few pages, it says $50,000. Is that the maximum amount available? for this?
No, that is that is what each of the 4 chosen regions will get from Okra to do a planning document.
And I can tell you that's not enough. Just my experience of using a consultant.
We would use the consultant for that.
Yeah.
It's a competition. But some other.
Probably $60,000 to $80,000.
But the point is, most of the most of the consultant comes from the grant, like we're not paying for the consultant.
Right, that will cover the majority.
A lot of it. Yeah.
And we can always negotiate not to exceed with a consultant.
Well-
I'm not really comfortable voting on this today because this is the first I've seen this whole paper or.
I'm not either.
You have till May 1st, right?
Well,
No, we're not asking.
we're not asking for a
Yeah.
vote. We're just asking for just, support of
Because
this.
this is a regional thing, and Okra looks at that as if the region isn't unified going into it.
Right.
That's why I think you need all the municipalities, and like Dave said, I think you need every regional municipality, not one that has government.
Absolutely. So,
So I think we need all of them represented, or at least behind it, but you definitely need the ones that are,
we're
you're
asking,
supposed to gonna work together to develop.
Does anybody want to make a motion for a letter of support? That could start considering the commissioners have already committed to it.
Not at this time, wouldn't be.
Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, I just want to ask the questions because I think the one date that I heard Bob mention was this May 1st, for that letter of intent. Who's writing that letter of intent and how's that funded? Because that's kind of key. There's not much time between now and.
Well,
It
right
said
now,
that they're
the
gonna
first-
be learning that at the workshop.
the commissioners committed to a letter of intent today in their meeting. They're asking us to commit to a letter of intent from the council because the more the better, right?
Workshop is the 4th and 5th of March.
Right, but I thought it said that part of it is to write a letter.
Yeah, the letter.
the letter of
I can
intent is to
explain
May
that.
1st.
The letter of intent comes, you have to have, in order to be able to write a letter of intent, which is really, you need the county and the cities behind that letter of intent. So, yeah, if you have a consultant do that, you can pay upwards of 11 grand. Last time, Marty Lucas and Jennifer
Oh, it was Jessica.
wrote it.
Yeah.
Because they only had a week to do it.
Right.
So they just hunkered down and wrote it, submitted it, and we got chosen. And then we hired,
DLC.
we hired DLZ, we had about 25 grand. I think we all chipped in about $1,000.
Everyone contributed to that.
And then,
I think it's on the 4th page. It states it will include letter of intent training at the workshop. So that's where I'm getting that from.
So I guess my question would be, could we agree on the letter of intent at our next meeting? Would that delay you is all I'm really saying?
well, no, I just like going into the workshop in front of
Having it.
Okra and not
Well-
having an entity.
No offense to you, Cassandra. Would anybody else like to make a motion to, about writing a letter of intent?
This is all Greek to me. This is the first time I've
I
had
mean,
any information on it.
So
I'm hesitant
Well-
to do that.
today we don't,
We don't need.
we don't need a letter of intent today. Today we need a blessing to learn more about this and decide if we want to even recommend proceeding with the letter of intent or not.
Because I think if you don't have going forwards, it's a waste of time. Because
Well,
it's
but
like,
if we have time to understand what
No,
you're talking
Yes,
about,
and-
then we could, in good conscience,
Right,
say, I
and
support you.
and I
And
agree
that's
with you.
exactly right. That's, and
Okra doesn't give us that
Well-
kind of flexibility.
And we will come back to you, or I say we, but Bob and, the others who go to that workshop will
We
come
talk to
back.
2 or 3 of us at a time. And if we're not in a quorum, we can get together and we can, you could tell us the program, but.
So
And right now, everything we know is what's on that paper. We don't know enough to,
Trying to help everybody out here. Bob. And Mary, what is it that you're looking from us tonight?
we just. need-
Besides the
We
letter
need
of
a,
intent?
we need just a motion that the council is supportive of the idea, not necessarily
Okay,
that you're supportive of paying. for that.
supportive of the idea and that,
okay.
That's
that we
all-
can,
that's all
we can look into.
that's all-
As long as, because it says a countywide entity must lead the effort. At this point, I'm not willing to vote in favor of us being the leaders of this effort. I could say, yeah, we support further investigation.
And that's exactly what we're asking for, is support further investigation, because it might be that you know, that it doesn't make sense for some hypothetical reason I can't imagine. I cannot see this not making sense. But we want everyone to be able to make an informed decision as to whether it does.
I would like to
That's
put a, I would
what I
like
was
to
trying to
put
say.
a
I'm just very
motion on the
tired.
floor, Dave.
Okay.
I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we as a Stark County Council are in favor of proceeding with the idea and the possibilities of endorsing the Stellar Pathways program.
Thank you. That,
Well,
We have a motion from Bruce.
No,
I'm sorry,
Howard.
second from Bruce, second from Bruce, motion from Howard, but then also further discussion from Cassandra. Just go ahead.
Contingent upon further information.
absolutely.
I'll add that contingent on further information.
We, you know, we would not in good conscience ask you to support something we don't
We have
know enough
amended
about.
amended motion, and then do you second that amended motion? I'll second that amended motion, and then any other further discussion. Sorry, Mary, I have a motion and a second. I have to move on that. I can't belabor it. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We,
Look forward to it. Hope we get something off.
as soon as we know more, we will share that with you.
We need to get Jim going. He's got actually, I was supposed to go to that class from updating my certification, but let's at least get him out of here.
Yeah. What do you give us?
Jim's not creating any new positions. What he wants to do is, he explained in the commissioners meeting that he wants to take two of his drivers that are going to EMT school and put them on in the full-time EMT spots that he's not able to fill. So they will become those full-time EMTs. So I questioned how long it was going to be some time, but he wants this to be a perpetual thing where he can rotate them in and out of that program and then have them sit in that. So it'll still always be qualified either an EMT or an EMT in training.
Right.
Otherwise, they will not qualify, and that will be part of the description.
You'll have to have
So-
EMR.
He's not creating a new position. He's not asking for anything from his budget. He just wants to modify that so those folks, as they're getting involved in that program, and that it behooves them then to stay employed by us.
Basically, I just need a salary ordinance for that position and for the field training officer position, because we don't have a salary ordinance for those two positions.
Is that the 50 cent? for the
That was the
training?
50 cent for
That's
the-
already done.
Okay. Yeah.
So just the full-time.
Yeah, the full-time,
EMR.
full-time EMR driver.
Yes.
But again, it'll be in the job description.
It
that
says,
It must
yeah,
be
it
an
must
EMT
be.
process.
You know
What
what
the
the
EMT
range is
process.
gonna be?
What's that?
Do you know what the range is gonna be?
They're starting at 14 an hour.
Okay, and what's their top pay?
Not pay, it'll be 50.
That's what he's asking for.
That's as simple as just making a motion. I move to move along with Jim's recommendation.
We have a motion from Mr. Bennett. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A second from Mr. Bailey. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So I'll
Thank
hopefully
you.
see you there.
I'll see you shortly.
Should like,
And you
I
know
go
what to think
sooner.
about it. That ain't paid for.
It's good. Sit around.
Can I go first? Trained as an EM.
$14.
$14.
So a couple other quick things, another carryover item for the commissioners meeting that is, I'm bringing up now because they brought it up today was everybody in the county can participate in perf currently except for the council. This sucks for me because I wish that we would have done this 8 years ago. But it was brought up that, a county employee might be working, say, in the highway department. And then they get elected to council, but they're still working for us, or they, so that, in other words, council wasn't excluded from that. Rachel actually had the idea of adding that. She picked that up, that we weren't part of that.
So basically, you guys, if you're okay with it, the commissioners made a motion this morning to accept the per resolution pending the council's approval as well. Basically 3% of your pay will be put in this pot that you'll eventually get after you leave. But it will
It's gonna
allow,
be vested for 10 years.
yes, so you do have a current council member that only needs 6 more months.
It's not me.
Like
Wish it was.
30 years ago, I was a councilman and a commissioner. Of course, as a commissioner, we paid into PERF,
Yes,
but not as council.
right,
So do those 4 years that I paid in those years, are those retainable?
yes. Yeah, so you would already have 4 years toward the investment year, the 10-year investment,
Cause my console time wouldn't count.
right? So I would like to. Add you, I mean, I would like to do this for council.
So explain that to me again. So say,
So say you, Howard, you worked for INDOT for 9 years.
All right.
Let's just say you worked for INDOT for 9 years. And then you came to be on the council. Well, your 9 years vested with PERF through INDOT. If you know, as a council member, if we did this, all you would need is 1 more year and then you're fully vested. Because the council makeup is so different, you know, you guys, you come from all different backgrounds.
but I can't, and I'm not trying to be selfish here at all, but. This is my 6th year on the council, so the prior 6 years wouldn't count towards 10.
Correct.
And I'm not saying it should, but that's the way we're perfectly clear.
But we pay in 3%, the public
But-
employment
Yes.
matches that,
When
correct?
you were a coroner, did you pay in then?
No,
Okay.
It wasn't.
Not at his time as coroner.
But now it
We
is.
have now added
Right, but
coroner
back
a
then.
couple of years ago. Howard, you can.
Well, you just get screwed no matter what.
That's the party, man. But those of us that aren't, and I don't expect to draw for. You still want our 3%.
You will, yes, you would have to pay in 3% of your salary, but you get that 3% back if you leave this position right away. I mean, what you pay in as an employee, the 3%, that goes in a totally separate bucket from the vested bucket. The vested bucket is a different bucket. The 3% you pay in is a totally different area.
So in 2 years, if I don't decide to run for council again,
You get all that.
you're gonna send me a check back for the 3% that I paid in.
Perf will, yes. Yes.
Be able to transfer it to like different tax deferred.
So the only thing that's not vested is the matching funds.
What was the question?
Basically, the only thing that's not vested is your matching funds.
You mean
So
like-
anything that you put in, it's fully vested from day one. When you leave, you can take
What
it.
we put in on
Go
county,
back
yes.
in the commissioners,
Well-
I paid in probably $2,000.
I don't know. No, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, and I'll support that. I just didn't know if it was clear enough.
Yeah, you didn't, you wouldn't. I'm
So
trying to
basically,
change that
We're
to,
the only ones that don't have that.
huh?
We're the only ones that don't
Yes,
have.
you're the only elected official that does not.
Which to
have
be
it.
fair, when we did this, I didn't even realize we paid.
I
Yeah,
think that was the-
was elected.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I was.
I had no idea what salary was.
So I mean, it's a bonus.
I just think it would help.
Council's pay is not that heavy anyway, so it's like
Yeah.
3%. Yeah, it's not like we're getting 3% of $1 million.
Like Cassie said though, just so everybody's clear too, you're not gonna get a check for the full amount. You need to throw it in a Roth or something. If you stop being council, you're not gonna get the full amount. You're gonna get taxes taken out if you don't.
Well,
And
you,
penalties.
so the 3% that we pay in is, we already pay taxes on that. So the only portion that you don't pay taxes on with your 3% is whatever interest you earned.
Yeah.
So you will be paying taxes on whatever interest you earn, but that 3% that you put in. You don't get taxed on that portion, because that's already taxed.
And you said this is something commissioners already talked about today?
Yes, so the
They already
commissioners,
approved it.
they approved
Didn't
it.
even, didn't even ask us, huh?
Well,
Just out of spite.
it takes both.
What's the catch?
Actually, they were doing it to help us.
Yes.
It's a joke.
Are you
It's a
taking
joke.
a motion?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically make a motion to accept what the commissioners, give us our proof.
Yes.
3%.
There it is. I just made the motion.
I did that.
Motion a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I,
Is there any opposed? Okay, the other thing I had was, from the council, I believe that we need to make a request to, HR. To remind all departments about the laws and the statutes that are related to ghost employment. Those bring in, come to mind is. Discussions we've had about offices that are committed to say to 80 hours. And, any kind of agreement outside of like a comp time to let somebody off early, whatever else, or working from home. We need to have all departments review that. I'm sorry to raise that, but there have been enough questions about it that, hearing it as a council person, I want to raise that to the council, but suggest that we do that because those things are wrong. And I want all those employees and office holders even to know that that can be punishable by law. right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that has come up a couple of times in our AIC meetings and things like that, that we need to be very strict about that, so.
And I'd like to also just add to that, when we had our closeouts with the state board of accounts. That if elected officials know of that and it's going on and they don't do something about it, that we can also get in trouble for it.
Yes.
So it's very important.
And I am bringing that up in that capacity when it comes to me.
Just like so. So that's why we're being.
The other thing was, so we did stellar. I have a whole list of House bills. We went to the AIC. And we had the legislative update. So I brought those in case you wanted to copy this. I'll give it to Rachel. If nobody doesn't want a copy, I'll throw it in my pile of papers. That a couple of things. One of the things that's going to the Senate is the BEAD program, which is the one from the state where they pay for the internet, the fiber optic internet. So that's really great. But there was really only one that really stood out to me that I wanted to bring to your attention. It's Senate Bill 183. And originally it wasn't a county option. It was actually just an exemption that was going to go into play to exempt mobile homes from assessment. So I had some previous discussions with the assessor and with the treasurer's office about this. And this is important for us because somehow it's not in my stack, but we also in the breakout meeting for county council, they gave us a spreadsheet that talked about how each county would be impacted. For us, if we opt out of that, it would be a $96,000 a year on the current NAV, $96,000 a year reduction. We don't want to do that. But I also asked the assessor at some point to give us a presentation just so we get a framework around this. And let me tell you why. Right now, we do have a situation where you can basically you could retire a mobile home title as an improvement. The way it usually is, you build a foundation or you anchor it in some way and it's attached to the existing property was what it would have been explained from the assessor's office and in my meeting that I spoke to these guys. But I feel like, and I brought this actually up at the town hall meeting that I attended of Cassandra's the other night too. Just one thing that I learned at the meeting, but I feel like for us, we have people that own mobile homes and they want the value to be there. It's a catch-22. Like people don't want their taxes to be higher and go up, but when it's time to sell the property, they want to be able to have somebody else get a loan on it. So it's a catch-22. So I'm just raising that to you that House bill does look like it has levity. So keep an eye on that one. That was really I didn't see any other like ones that, and several of the others too heard these updates. That was really the main one that I wanted to talk about, just so you're aware of that. So keep an eye on that. But then I like I said, the assessor, I've asked her to give us an explanation of what we've got going on with mobile homes in Starke County again, because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's double wide homes with a pole barn that are selling for $350,000. I mean, it's not like the old day where a double wide was bringing $40,000. You know what I'm saying? And I'm guessing that the property owners that own manufactured homes want to protect that value. So what I also want to do is find the balance between what the taxpayers want, and what comes through with legislation. Now that this is an option, we'll have that option to determine how that goes. And so we'll be getting more education on that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Oh, do we have the sheet for it? The other thing that was brought up today in the commissioners meeting was that they want to buy a used pickup truck for the Parks Department.
Up to 25,000 and to be paid from ARPA.
And I suggested ARPA from that. We need to start allocating the ARPA and smaller things like that. I don't think are going to affect us as far as chipping away. And I think that's a good one.
Because we got to the end of this year, right, to allocate the funds.
We need to allocate it.
Spent by the end.
Yeah, I have another ARPA thing to bring up after this too, but
I just don't want that. I'm not necessarily against that allocation of it, but I feel like we need like an executive or a special session or whatever that would qualify for executive to sit down and talk about a more comprehensive plan for that money instead of wheeling it away.
I agree with
Yeah, let's
that.
go ahead and buy this little truck and let's go ahead and buy this.
Right.
Well,
And it's all gonna add up.
you guys did do the ordinance, so you do have an
got
ordinance
it.
that allocates it to
Certain
certain
funds.
sections. So you still have $1 million in infrastructure, you have $200,000 in.
lost revenue.
No, $200,000 in community projects. And you still have about around 500,000 in lost revenue.
Oh, 500, yeah.
But do we have to have that specifically ear tagged by the end of the year?
Yes. And
Say
then
like
you-
our $1 million in infrastructure?
Yes.
We have to say, here's the infrastructure.
You
we're
have to have
spending.
contracts in place
Oh, no kidding.
by the end of the year. If you're not gonna, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I feel like.
the reason why I'm asking you that is it's. You know, Todd's very informative, knows a lot about the county garage and what's going on out there, and Tony knows what's going on at the jail, and I got a little bit of experience at what's going on, you know, what it takes to run a coroner's office, and our coroner's office, the morgue was built with very good intentions. I don't think it was built big enough, but it was built with good intentions, and in our growing time today, we're living in a cremation society. We're living in a society where the coroner may have to have possession of a deceased for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days. I believe she's got one now. She's had a month due to some identification situations, and she needs more cooling space at the morgue. She needs a bigger refrigerator. She probably at least 4. I would say 4 to 8, where she could retain 4 to 8. Deceased individuals because of maybe some emergency situations or disasters that could go on in the county. And with that being said, I think that might be, we've got with the $1 million infrastructure money. I don't mean all of it, but I think we ought to look into, give her permission to look into ear tagging some of that money to expand that facility.
Well, I tell you what, why don't we go out there one day and meet with April and talk to her? I think.
Yeah, get a hold of me,
Try to
Tony.
come up with a plan.
And
That
we
way
can bring it back in front of you.
Are we not
guys.
using that reefer trailer anymore?
I
It's curious. I just
don't
asking.
know
That's
that
what we
it's-
bought. That's what we got it for. We got a
No,
permit for
I
it.
think the last time it went down, I don't know if they got it back up or not. to be honest.
Yeah, it was down, I know.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's been down a couple of times. It's getting.
But I mean, what's that,
Stupid
my
expensive
point
to
is,
fix it for 'em.
Yeah.
the money's gotta be well spent, and it's gotta
But
be,
again-
it's gotta be ear tagging, and it's gotta be contracted and things, but
But again, like if we'll talk with her a little bit.
Right,
see if
see what
I'm
you
bringing
recommend.
Back council or whatever, because she hasn't mentioned it yet to me or anything, but how it is, right, it's a, I mean, always take as a van of something that. You know, but again.
Well, that's where I'm thinking maybe, folks who need like a truck or more workspace. Maybe we need to have something submitted by a deadline so that we can look at everything. Or, as broad of a scope as possible of what different departments need to come up,
right,
come up with a better.
Let me ask you
plan.
this.
because we don't want to, we've got. Couple $1 million in different funds. We don't want the end of the year to come and we lose it.
Yeah, no.
We don't want to give them money.
No, well, commissioners have already taken lead on what you're talking about tonight for the parks.
Yes, they've already approved that.
Let's go ahead and get that around. We'll not talk to April and see if we can come up with something. Maybe an idea on that.
I like-
Throw one out there. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So let's do that first, and I want to go back to Cassie's thought though.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Are you making a motion for the?
Yeah, so basically just make a motion for, was it
25,000.
Up to 25,000 for the parks fund.
To be paid from ARPA.
Yeah, to be paid from ARPA, yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Howard. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed, Rachel. Now, sorry to say, there's another thing from ARPA too. So one of the things I will say is that being a firefighter half my life and doing a lot of training around the county as one of the main training officers, I spent a lot of time at Sanpere Fire Department. And 24 years later, still the same fire department, same size. It has a lot of issues. And one of the things that I said when I first started, I came on to support fire, EMS and police. And so those were the things I was passionate about. I always said I wanted to try to help as a county person, help them. So what's happened is they've gotten to the stage that they've gotten more serious about that. They've already raised $200,000 of their own money. They also have the ability to look into a loan or a bond for the addition, but they have plans. They're asking for some assistance from the county. They also have plans to approach Nextera, which is not guaranteed, but they do have a plan to do that, at least to look elsewhere than us. But they're asking the county for $250,000. They have $200,000 of their own, and they're looking at a really modest firehouse. I mean, like we've been approached before about almost 3 million for a firehouse. They're looking at around 1 million. Less if they're getting on government programs and gonna try to reduce it. They're looking at the site at Tyranny Park and there's already asphalt there. There's already an existing well. There's like a few things that they can use towards the project. But it sounds like a great opportunity. And so I met with I've met a few times with Bill Crace has been helping them write it. And then so basically they come to the commission and asked for the 250,000. They approved it, 150,000 from ARPA, and then 100,000 from us, either whether it's solar money or other funds. That's correct, right, Rachel? They decided 150 from ARPA, not 100 today.
I don't remember if they specified.
They did. We won't be able to make a motion.
Do they need to know the decision today, or is that something that can be tabled until we look
Might
at
as well
the
table it,
broader
then.
scope of the use?
I'll
of
make a
that money?
motion to table that then, I guess I think it was 150, but I'll make a motion to table that, but at least it's on our agenda then. I just hope it doesn't with their timeline, but just so you know what's going on. I think that's a very valid investment from the county, considering they're only asking for a small portion of it. You know, they're doing a lot of their own
What other
labor.
funds would we take the 100,000 out of?
Well, one of the things that we could take it from is seed it, but I mean,
still have
or could
to-
take it all from ARPA. I mean,
Let's just take it all from ARPA. You have 200,000 allocated in ARPA toward community projects still that we have not touched.
Then we'd only be taking 50 from lost revenue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why don't
Good
we go ahead
question.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I mean, that, even if I'm here resident, I'm not against a new firehouse. I know they need one, but I just want to see how that's gonna fit in to a plan, a broader scope plan for this money.
Would somebody like to make a motion to take it all from ARPA?
What's our other choice? Where would you take the other money from?
Community projects.
take it from
Yeah.
ARPA, seeded.
Real quick, I
Are
mean,
you rescinding your motion to table it?
I have,
I'll rescind my
that's what I
motion
was
to
gonna
table,
say,
sorry.
'cause you.
I'll rescind my motion to table. Nobody seconded anyway, so it died for a second.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, we
you give
didn't,
me a
it kind of.
chance.
Oh, sorry, okay, good,
It
okay.
kind of got,
Okay.
yeah, start talking about, I mean, obviously, we need to do things, I mean, for community and stuff like that, right? Fire departments, things like that are very important. Do we typically, and we helped them out too much when we're in that area in San Pierre?
Well, that's the thing. We haven't helped them yet. We helped North Judson Wood Park. You know, like we've helped,
And
we
we have-
helped Bass Lake
it's
out
all
with the,
right,
park.
There are funds that are for certain things that you can't use for everything.
Right, but the west side of the county definitely, I think, feels like the stepchild sometimes, you know, as far as what we get. That's what I'm saying. I'm not against it. I think we need to have some kind of a plan in place for all of that money, instead of just coming to a meeting here and there and.
I have a suggestion for that, separate from this, but I do have
Different
a,
baby money, you mean?
So what's to keep us from doing what the commissioners did, just the remembering what the amounts were and what categories they were coming out of?
but I agree with Rachel. There's 200,000 left in the community project. It's a community project. I mean, we allocated that.
But
It
you
would
gotta
only be
take it
50
off
for
of
the other
ARPA?
one.
You wanna take it off?
Sure.
How do you want to?
Yeah.
I have heard that, and to be fair, that the north end of the county is going to be maybe making a request for some things too, so. Doesn't necessarily.
Well, they're wanting a sign.
They want to sign, yeah, they want to sign, and I think they've got some appropriations for it, but what are we looking, 25,000?
25,000.
Yeah,
So
so,
those kind of things we want to get on this list Cassie's talking about.
right, I
And,
understand.
you know, and originally they wanted a firehouse, but Bruce and I went to a meeting and actually some people there said they'd like to improve their community center, is what they told us.
Right.
Because the ceiling's low and, but
Yeah, we need to go up there.
so are we interested in doing something now for San Pierre to move forward?
I am.
Yeah, I am too.
I'll make the motion that we take from ARPA 200,000 for community projects, 50,000 from lost revenue for the San Pierre project.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we move forward to take from ARPA 200,000 from community projects, 50,000 from lost revenue for the San Pierre Firehouse project.
I'll second it.
Have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion?
Well, I'm just gonna say while we're on the record that because this is my side of the county, my district, and I know there's a need, despite the lack of an overarching plan, I will support it and vote for it because I know it's needed. However, I'm growing increasingly uncomfortable not having a plan in place.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll just, is there any comment from the public? I know we're really drawing this meeting out, but
I agree.
is there anybody against?
Did you ask for comment?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
For or against, I mean, don't be afraid to say if you're against.
There instead of an overarching plan
Yeah.
to see what has the biggest impact, make the biggest difference or something.
You know, during COVID, I taught a firefighter 1 and 2 class there, and it was tough. I mean, they had a power outage, they had an accident down the street. They literally had to sideswipe one of their trucks to get one out of the bay to go help these folks that were in a pretty nasty accident. Like they've been suffering at that fire department. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So the other thing that I would like to add on to that, can you ask the commissioners if the council agrees to this, if they can make their next meeting? Or should we make the morning meeting of theirs before ours, maybe even a joint? I'm thinking a joint meeting. Let's do a joint meeting and do a workshop with the commissioners and sit down and talk about the ARPA money. And at least set it in motion, but I'm thinking our night, because then that gives them a couple more weeks, us a couple weeks to start thinking about all the projects we want to do, talk to our constituents. What I'm thinking is either extending their morning meeting and then we just try to get as many of us to their morning meeting, or making ours earlier. I don't want to extend that all the way into the late night because they may not want to do a joint then.
What they have $1 million left of the 4.6 million.
$1 million of all of it left.
That's what you'll be.
What all can that be spent on though? I mean, that's the big thing.
Well, that $1 million is slotted in infrastructure in the ordinance right now. So technically, we can spend it on whatever we want because we're such a small county and we got under 10 million.
600 each.
So,
And property taxes for everybody?
it is a use. You could do that. So you'll have about $1 million left, is what we're talking about here for the plan. It's in infrastructure right now.
I'll commit to either.
Neither.
What day are we talking?
Well, maybe
about?
this same day in March.
I'll commit to either one, so. Whatever you come up with. I'll make
Are we
it.
going back to Mondays or to,
Oh, be back to on Monday.
March
You're right. Yeah, sorry.
10th.
Monday.
Oh, March 18th.
Could,
Oh, yeah, there's.
could we ask the commissioners if they want to do a morning or an evening meet, or maybe split it, or,
Sure.
and we'll just communicate about it and get it posted way in time for everybody. Because I mean, I think we would want to at least dedicate an hour to that workshop in addition to our agenda.
And is that gonna be open to the public?
Sure, yeah, right. It'll be a
Good.
joint meeting, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I think that'd be a good idea. That way people want to come and protest it or be there
Or
in
maybe-
protest
maybe-
or in support.
Maybe they've got ideas too.
Well, I was gonna say, like, maybe we need to somehow, spread the word among the department heads and among the.
We've got a month to do that.
Yeah, to get something submitted for that meeting. They have.
Well, you've proven you can spread the word through social media. I mean, really, like we all have different methods of it, but as a 7 council, that's what we need to do is go to our constituency and reach out and say, hey, like, what do you see that the county needs? And go from there. Okay, so, there's one last thing. It was a very touchy subject, but I think we need to address it. It came off of our agenda because they're not here, but it was brought up during the commissioners meeting, and because I seemed like the one that was negative about it, I'm gonna bring it up as, try to bring some positive about it, but there was some discussion about a carnival coming to our fair. And it was misreceived when I mentioned it. What I was trying to say was, let me just kind of lay it out. So for those of you that didn't know what was going on, is that a carnival company has committed to the fair board. Tony went to the last fair board, so he can correct me if I'm wrong about what's going on. But I also went to their fair board where the first one where they had their election, they talked about this. There's a carnival that's willing to come to Starke County. They're already signed up. That's going to come this year. They had a week in between, and geographically, it was feasible for them to come.
yes.
And so they're committed to that already. It's a done deal. I went to the fair board meeting. The fair board has said they have enough money to operate a fair this year. That's already in motion, and they're working on that. And so in the commissioners meeting, it was discussed about the council committing to $50,000 to cover the fair. And so there's, been some ideas tossed around. I will admit, now what I'm gonna throw out there too is that we wanted to become more involved as the council in the fair board. We were denied or whatever. That was fine. We went on. But regardless of that, so I guess what I'm saying is I don't feel like anybody on the council said we needed to have a carnival, but on social media, several people did say it would be nice to have a carnival back. So I think community wise, this is a win-win. I think it's just scary before we see the product and they've already committed to do it. That's the only point I was trying to make. And this year, the fair board had already said they have enough money to run a fair this year. They also have money augmented by the hog barn. But I also would like to make them feel comfortable about that commitment if the fair is good. And there's been some ideas tossed around about whatever they fall short. Like I can't see them not selling any tickets and falling 50,000 short. But like
If we pay for the whole thing, they'll have no incentive.
Exactly. Well, I said at the
What are
commissioners
they
meeting,
asking?
you can start selling tickets today.
So basically during your last town hall, I went to that meeting and I went there to talk about that because I knew it was a very touchy subject.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we went there, or I went there, I should say, they do have it secured for this year. And basically they just after they set, the 50,000's made, they get a little bit from it and stuff like that. You're right. 15%. I don't have it in front of me, so but basically they were just looking for a safety net. But I did mention, I was like, if you guys get it this year, obviously it's kind of like our IT program we have. I mean, we don't want to, put the cart before the horse here. We would like to see how it is. But they also made some points that, hey, they're gonna have to, instead of using generators like a lot of them used to, they're gonna have to upgrade their power and do some of that. And they seemed okay with it, what we talked about.
Yeah.
They did. And I think if this year goes good for them, I don't see nothing wrong with this.
I guess they have to sign a commitment though, to be able to get in the future. So yeah, that's the thing. And so,
5-year contract.
yeah, so.
So they're not actually asking for anything for 2024?
No, that's a done deal, but they want to sign a commitment. And I guess so they don't have to ask us like for the money later. I was just thinking I'm going to credit Bruce and Howard and others with this about other ideas, because again, I wasn't trying to be a jerk about it. I just being careful about how taxpayer money is committed.
Sure.
We've had other things in this county. I don't want to bring them all up now, but we've committed to them and then we've regretted it. I don't want that to happen. I mean, try to prevent that as much as we can. But the hybrid idea of saying I couldn't imagine they couldn't that they couldn't possibly sell $30,000 worth of tickets. And so let's say, for example, they were 20,000 short. If they took 10,000 of their money and the county took 10,000 to cover it, I feel like that's a more fair offer up to that. I'm not saying, hopefully they would sell it all. Maybe they're only 5,000 short. We only had to come up with 2,500. But I credit you two gentlemen and others for coming up that, not me.
But there's still $12,500 that they could come in front of us and ask for.
Well,
They
got that, right?
They've already got that. They just have to tell us what they spend it on.
No.
That's not how the motion was done.
Before the board.
So it's still in there. The 12,500 still budgeted, still in there. They just have to basically request it.
They have to come ask for
Yes.
it.
I'm
And tell
sorry.
us.
and we
That's
got
even better. Okay.
I thought it was, they just had to give us receipts essentially. I
So
did.
they've got a cushion there, and if we would go along and say, hey, we'll do a half of up to $10,000. My goodness, can't tell me they're not gonna bring in $30,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't believe it.
I guess so. Would the council support something smaller now to make them feel more confident? Or are you saying you would rather wait? I don't know then. What do you think?
Feel like they should be here to ask.
I was gonna say.
Well,
that's
I
one
know
of the
why
things.
they're
Maybe-
not here.
maybe
It's
wait
because
till-
they feel like I had a negative reception of it. I was just warning them that to me, I felt like that was committing.
What was that said? I'm sorry, Howard, but was that said to you? I mean, because the way I took it was like, there just wasn't a lot of time in between, to get, to come to you, like they went to commissioners or whatever.
It was on our agenda originally.
Yeah, they took it off because they didn't have time.
To be clear, today, what did they ask for?
What was on the table was 50,000
Yes, what was on
for
the
5
table was
years.
50. Well,
They want a
Each year,
commitment
a
for
5-year
years.
commitment of 50,000.
Can I say something? Is this the same carnival that used to be in the Justin Mint Fest like
for years?
Not sure, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. We don't,
Well,
that's what we want to make sure, is that it's something worth
Right,
that.
Yeah, and they were all rusty and broken. I wouldn't let my daughter get on them.
Well, I questioned that. They said that this company's been in business for a lot of years and
It's
they
a
don't want to
family-owned
use it.
business.
I have no
Yes,
idea.
it is.
Right.
I mean, council.
So why don't you contact somebody at MintFest, because every vendor at MintFest has to give 10% of their earnings to the MintFest. So if they're giving 10%, then
Well, here's where I'm at. They're willing, I mean, they've already got it set for this year. Like I told them, I just like to see it. I walk in, it's a great carnival. Things look great.
That's all I was
Come
trying
to
to say. I
council
wasn't
and
trying
And
to.
Todd's really,
You know what I
really
mean?
familiar with that. Because he's from up in that area.
But you already got it coming. Why would you buy it before, you see it? What if you commit? and
Right, I think it's
I
an
mean, that's-
experimental year, like the lady here said, maybe, what if it's a really shabby deal? And the fair board themselves might want to not commit to
Well,
it,
Or, if it's a shabby year, but if you see the equipment's nice, it looks at it, we can still know. It's just, it'd be nice to see it.
I brought that up to Angela. I will say, I brought that up to Angela and you may remember that, or Sarah or somebody. But I said, but it's already done for this year, right? And she said, yes, but that's because this year's a leap year and there's an extra week
Right.
in their schedule.
Where,
But I don't know what that meant.
where I'm confused is, I was under the understanding that they wanted some guarantee for this year. But so say if the carnival doesn't exceed the $50,000, they don't want any county council money, they're good with money.
Yeah, no, as long as basically, it's,
No, I know, I
yeah,
understand.
no council money. It's basically what I'm taking is now is if they don't raise enough, I mean, like, let's say they only bring in 25.
Like a guarantee, that's what they
Look,
want, like.
here's what I'm asking, Tony, if they, the carnival wants guaranteed $50,000, right? And if they only bring in $30,000, is the fair board prepared to make up that 20? Or are they asking us to help reimburse that for this year? That's where I
In
was
the meeting,
under
they
the
said
understanding.
this, go ahead.
It said it was covered. It was my understanding from listening to the minutes, and Sarah was at that meeting, that 2024 is covered. They just want a 5-year contract moving forward and up to $50,000 a year. But I think that 2024 is my understanding is covered.
Okay, there's where I was.
I will throw one other thing that I said too. And again, I even said that I'm speaking 1 of 7. I said, but you might even ask the solar company for it. They already paid for the hog barn. Maybe they would pay something for the other public that aren't involved in that kind of thing. And I meant it not as a smart aleck, being serious. And so like, I don't know, like I mentioned that too, but I don't want to leave the fair board hanging either.
No, we don't, we're not gonna do that. We got a little time, but if they want it for this year, right, they need to come back or somehow we need to get together, but I think this year will cover.
I'd be willing to push that 12.5 towards it for this year. That's been allocated, that hasn't been.
Well, yeah, I didn't know it wasn't already promised. Maybe, does somebody want to go to the next, commit to the next fair board meeting out of us, just so we have somebody there to get this straight?
I said, that's again when it is.
But back when Sandy and I were kids, when we first started the 4-H clubs and stuff that we were in, everybody in the community worked towards that fair. They don't go out and solicit anymore. They don't. And I'm not willing to say, hey, we'll give you 50,000. If the nut's 50 and you earn 30, I'd be glad to go 50% of the loss. But they don't, that gives them no incentive, and that's what's happened to our fair board. And I don't care if Donnie Binkley was here, the incentive, they just don't go out and work it like they used to.
Well, I think there should be some incentive there, and hopefully they would do that. I mean, what that was asked to me, well, what do you propose? I said, you could start selling tickets today. Like, I'd buy a few.
I heard you say that and I agree.
They're $25 a ticket.
They're 25, so I don't think that's not that unreasonable. I don't know who told me. I think it
We did
might have
the
been
math. It was
Darren.
like
It was
$2,000.
$40 for the tag.
For 1 day to ride it or all
25
day?
days. That's a good question. I didn't.
All day.
It was
It
all
was
day.
one day.
I think it was
One day. One day.
Yeah.
I would think $30,000-$40,000 for them to earn would be easy.
It's that, for the 50,000, that's 200 tickets a day? Is that what we figured out? It wasn't a lot.
It's 2,000 wristbands. So over the course of the entire
Yeah.
fair, they have to
So
sell
400 tickets
2,000
a
wristbands.
day.
probably Saturday, Friday night would probably be, I don't know, Monday night, Friday night, the biggest, I don't know.
Now, does that include the take on the gaming and the carnival's concessions?
That's another question that I hope somebody, if you guys are both going, maybe,
Well, they mentioned that this particular carnival isn't going to require that fair use their vendors.
Right.
For anything but the ride.
We can
So I
still
think
have our
that's-
own vendors.
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
they'll bring some of
I
their own.
understand that, but my point is,
Does that count towards the 50,000?
right, they will bring in some of their own concessions, and
Yeah,
they'll bring in all their gaming stuff. Will that count towards the
That's a
50,000?
good question. I would hope so.
I know
But
that,
I'm not sure.
right, and it's gotta be all.
We gotta trust them. We could put the auditor there every now and then.
She's got time for one.
So anyways, sorry to belabor that, but I just wanted to bring the fair board thing up, but I mean, at least they know we're talking about it, that we're not turning a blind eye to it. Maybe Cassie or Tony, or Cassie and Tony might be able to go to the next fair board meeting.
You know the data, she was just asking you that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sandy, do you know the next,
Well, we
you
can,
know, what date,
we can
next
figure it
fair
out.
board meeting? Do you happen to know?
No, I don't.
Can't remember what days.
No.
It's another annual meeting. I think they have.
Oh,
I
put
don't
it down,
know if they
Bruce.
have
Just a man like everybody.
meetings once a month. I don't know.
Where your coonskin at? Yeah.
All right, we had something else.
Can we be done?
This has been a good one.
Can I make? a
Both
motion
meetings
to
today.
adjourn?
Are you?
Can I-
Good night, Irene. Yeah.
Of course.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion is
Do we
second.
have to